Lonzo, I need you to explain this text to me. Ordinarily, we come in here, and there's usually one texter that sends us like a pregame text, you know? And sometimes it's encouraging, and sometimes it's funny, and sometimes it says something like this. ESPN, dear Rob and Lonzo, we have survived the pandemic, Putin's threats of nukes, and Jake Paul pretending to be a boxer thus far. But parachuting spiders in South Carolina, I believe, will take us out. End quote.
Yeah, a story the guest host was talking about on WORD about parachuting spiders. I didn't look them up, but apparently they are yellow with a different color belly, and they can use their webs to fly through the wind like Spider-Man. And it says they're really no threat other than, I guess, you could be walking along and get hit by a flying spider.
Okay. So
the guest host grabbed a story from Fox News. So apparently there's a local story about the spiders.
So I am, Lonzo, a bit of a masochist, right? I for whatever reason, unexplainable as it may be, I like to torture myself every now and then. You know what I mean? I like to make sure that if there's something wrong in the world, I am not only aware of it, but I directly involve myself in it. Why would I take time to find peace and serenity now if instead I could find all the things threatening the world and dive headfirst in as if I'm going for a gold medal in the Olympics?
Apparently big yellow spiders, from what I can see. I don't know.
So I went ahead and Googled this, parachuting spiders, South Carolina, and I came to a story presented, Lonzo, by our friends over at WYFF Channel 4, right here in town. And this is the headline that came up, Lonzo. This is the headline. The headline is, big invasive Joro spiders, experts say will begin to cover entire East Coast. Subheadline, the East Coast can expect to see webs around late May to early June.
Okay, so they're not here yet, so we have time to prepare.
Yes. So if any of you know where I might be able to buy at a large discount flamethrowers online, I would appreciate that knowledge immediately. The story comes from WGCL out of Georgia, and it reads this way, Lonzo. I won't read you the whole article, but I'll read you the important parts. Giant parachuting spiders could show up along the entire east coast of the United States, according to some scientists. Originally from Japan, the 3-inch long Joro spider made its way first to Georgia and has begun to slowly spread out. Said Anna Reed, it's disgusting. Added Denisha Match, a big no. And from Gregory Lightfoot, and I quote directly, oh, Lord Jesus, end quote.
That I think that's the most accurate quote on the entire thing, because that's exactly what even atheists would be saying if they look and there are parachuting spiders coming down a la Red Dawn onto their lawn.
Gordon's brother is not thrilled about this development. He said, quote, oh, Lord Jesus. University of Georgia scientists have released a study saying the 8-legged residents are about to become even more prolific in Georgia and spread up and down the entire East Coast. It doesn't have anything that's controlling its population size in the new habitat, but it has perfect conditions to spread, said Benjamin Frick, co-author of the study and an undergraduate at the Odom School of Ecology and the University of Georgia. Scientists say it will continue to spread because of its ability to survive the cold. Andy Davis, co-author of the study and a research scientist at the Odom School of Ecology, said, quote, so in our experiment, we exposed them to a brief period of cold, only for a couple of minutes at below freezing temperatures, and most of the Joros did just fine. Researchers have found that spiders can travel using their webs like balloons or parachutes to ride the wind, but it's unknowing humans who will spread them quicker. Davis said, quote, We had a juror being found here in Oklahoma. We tracked the person who made the observation, and it turned out it was a student from here. Jurors don't appear to have much of an effect on local food webs or ecosystems, Davis added. And as menacing as the big spiders look, experts say they're scaredy cats, and you're highly unlikely to be bitten by one. Frick said, quote, its fangs are so small relative to most human skin that it probably won't be able to get its fangs into you even if it wanted to. Frick and Davis said if you're unlucky enough to be bitten by a Juro, its bite feels far less than a wasp sting, more like a little pinch. They do have a little venom, but like a bee or wasp sting, most will not need medical attention. We can expect to see webs around late May or early June, but the really big female webs come around the start of fall. All I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen, is the spider's impervious to cold, Lonzo. Are they impervious to a Zippo lighter and a bottle of hairspray? Follow my Twitter feed for the experiment in June.
All right, so a couple of things while reading the article, you said possible and probably, which means they don't know. They don't know.
No, it doesn't.
They don't want to panic. It's just like a bee sting or a wasp sting. Those things hurt, by the way. A bee sting and a wasp.
It said it's less than a bee sting or a wasp sting.
How?
They said it's more like a little pinch than a sting.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you know what else?
Not me volunteering to find out, right? This is not me signing up to say, okay, if you see one, call me and I'll come take one for the team to find out. I have no interest. Again.
Oh, I'm going to see one because of where I live. I'm probably going to see multiples. Probably while.
Their attack tactics at Lonzo's compound.
I hope the lizards come back.
All I'm saying,
the lizards are my saviors this summer.
Your boy, Liberob the Woke Warrior, is a conservationist at heart, right? I will donate to the World Wildlife Fund faster than I donate to most other charities. I am a conservationist at heart. When the spiders begin to teach themselves how to control the wind, how to ride wind currents in order to gain the high ground, Anakin, that's where your boy's like, nope, I'm good. Did
you see a picture of them?
I did.
Yeah, that's. I think I fought one of those in Elden Ring yesterday. No,
I did. Now, listen. I've been around spiders for a very long time, right? You ever seen a banana spider, Lonzo? I know you have. You live out in the sticks. You know what a banana spider is.
I have seen spiders here that I didn't know existed living in the city for half my life. We came here and I'm like, oh, what the heck is that? Why are we here? I don't want to be here anymore.
Yeah. I've been around banana spiders. Banana spiders get to be about the size, if not bigger, of an outstretched hand. And they make really cool
you're just
webs.
creeping me out just doing it.
Yeah, they're about that big. And they make these big webs, and they're actually really cool. They also call them zigzag spiders because they put little zigzag patterns in their web. They're actually really, really cool. Till you walk into the web and one attaches to your face. Ask me how I know. All right.
The web or the spider?
Yes.
Oh.
Because they hang out right in the middle of it, right? Like they build this big web, and then they hang out right in the middle of it. And what's interesting is if you just there's an old southern belief. They're also called a riding spider because they put the zigzag pattern, and if they do it in the right way, it can actually look like there's letters in the pattern, right? And the old southern superstition is that if you disturb the web of a zigzag spider or a riding spider, and they write your name into their web, you're doomed, right? So you leave them alone. Banana spiders don't bother me because they got these big webs, Lonzo, and they're about the size of your hand. If you miss a zigzag spider, a riding spider, a banana spider, if you miss one of those, it's kind of on you, right? Like that's just further evidence that Darwin was right. If you're oblivious enough that you walk face first into a face hugger in spider form,
unless it's nighttime, like there's poor lighting or something.
Yeah, they're not really out at night though. That's
they're
the thing.
not.
Like they come out and they rebuild their web every day. They hide at night. They come out, rebuild the web every day. So if you walk face first into a face hugger that is polymorphed into a spider, it's just evidence that you don't need to carry on your genes. Your genetics are to the detriment of the human race if you miss that, right? You should not breed. Evolution's real. However, when the spiders start flying to you, We are now at an evolutionary disadvantage, ladies and gentlemen. And the next step in that evolutionary arms race is flamethrowers. This message approved by me, Rob Brown.
So just a hypothetical, let's say, come spring, we're sitting here doing the program and we look outside and there are a ton of these things that just start hitting the window.
I would at that point say that it is time for me to go ahead and begin figuring out the proper way to construct said homemade flamethrower.
All right.
Because the 8 feet that I have to walk between the downstairs door and my car door, I now will demand hazard pay from our bosses.
I'm a great fan of our engineering department, and I believe they've been waiting for just such a moment to actually build a flamethrower, so they could say, hey, we had reason to build a flamethrower. And I think engineering could do it. I think they could.
I will tell you that I have, we've needed Chris Evans, Captain America, down the hall many times for the survival of this show. I did not know that I might need him for the survival of myself, but apparently it's in the cards. Ladies and gentlemen, let's start the show.
Let's do lunch.
This is a very nutritious lunch. All the food groups are represented.
You guys are here.
What in the wide world of sports is going on here?
The lunch breakdown. I don't know why I said it like that. The 3 things you have to know before you start talking sports with your friends, family, coworker, or the dog, whoever it is that you spend your lunch break with. This shall be the scuttlebutt. These are the things that you need to know before you go start talking sports with your friends, family, coworker, or the dog, whoever you spend your lunch break with, ladies and gentlemen. And I will tell you, not as a part of the lunch breakdown, more just for you to prepare your televisions. And hey, you know what? I'll make it part of the lunch breakdown. Why not? Item number 1 on the lunch breakdown, coming up at 1 o'clock today.
All right, cool. Thank you.
It is time for the USC Lady Gamecocks to get the SEC tournament underway. The 3rd round of the SEC women's basketball tournament is taking place, and at 1 o'clock, Dawn Staley's gals will tip it off against the Razorbacks of Arkansas. That's coming up at 1 o'clock. And yes, we will be breaking that game down for you in real time as it happens. The South Carolina Gamecocks have won their last 5 in a row leading into the SEC tournament. However, it has been a couple of days since the last time that the Gamecocks took to the court. It was the 27th of February when they knocked off Ole Miss 71-57. Before that, they made a threat at a century mark game on the road at Texas A&M back on the 24th, and on the 20th, they took on Tennessee at home and knocked off the number 12 Lady Volunteers by a 14-point margin, 67-53. The last time that the Lady Gamecocks squared off against Arkansas, it was one of the closer games they have had this year. However, it did end up as a dub on the road in Fayetteville when they knocked off said Lady Razorbacks 61-52. This will likely be a much more neutral game site than it was over there at the home of Woo Pig Suey. But it still should be one of the more interesting games in this round. South Carolina tips it off against the Razorbacks coming at 1 o'clock. We will have that game updating for you right here on the show. Item number 2 on the lunch breakdown. We talked about it very briefly yesterday, but I think it deserves more time. If you are at all an MMA fan, man, I'm struggling today. You can tell it's Friday, right?
No, it's the spiders, man.
It's the spiders.
It's absolutely the spiders.
I am not afraid of spiders. I am afraid of spiders that can fly at me.
By the way, a listener called in and said his son actually has a flamethrower, and I already knew this. You could buy one for $500 to $600 online.
The minute I see flying spiders, go ahead and book that. Next paycheck is spoken for. All right. Item number 2 on the lunch breakdown. I don't know if most of you are MMA fans. Some of you are MMA fans. What the percentage is? I certainly, I don't think it's crazy to say that the popularity of the sport has increased dramatically over the years. Lonzo, you and I have had many conversations about this. You appreciate an almost WWE level of showmanship within MMA. You like the Conor McGregors of the world that make it as much about the entertainment aspect as the fight itself.
Let me just say, I like the guys who talk well like that, but back it up.
Sure.
Not the guys who do all the talking and they get their butts whipped every time they get in the octagon.
Sure. Understandable entirely. Yeah. Understandable entirely. I like the dudes who just go and fight and win, right? I like the dudes who just fight and they win. That's who I'm here for.
My favorite fighter of all time is Daniel Cormier. Can talk really well, can also talk stuff, and was awesome in the octagon.
Yeah, I'm good with that. It takes a lot. It takes a lot to get me interested in a fight based on what's happening outside of the octagon, right? I like the fights that I can come in here, pop open a segment, and go, this guy's got great ground and pound. This guy's got phenomenal body control. This guy's a jiu-jitsu 10th degree black belt. This guy was a great stand-up boxer, but he's going up against a guy who wants to get it onto the mat. You know, I like the ability to break down fights. That's where I lean. This, Lonzo, I think, is the first fight in a minute. And I was trying to think earlier this morning about what the last fight that was that I kind of felt it built up around what was happening away from the octagon. I almost want to say it was the second go of Conor McGregor and Diamond Dustin Poirier, right? But that had less to do with Dustin Poirier guy because he's from Louisiana. But it had more to do with, I think you could have stuck anybody in there. I would just wanted to see somebody kick Conor McGregor's face off of his head, right? This is the first time in a while that I get the impression, though, these two dudes aren't putting on a show of we don't like each other. I genuinely get the impression these two dudes genuinely do not like each other. This is the first fight in a minute that the interactions away from the octagon make me want to turn in more than what the fight is. Because on its surface, Lonzo, on paper, it's not a great matchup. Jorge Masvidal has not been the same guy in a while. Colby Covington, as far as away from the octagon personality goes, one of my least favorite people, right? But the barbs flying back and forth between each other, though, to me, this is the first fight that there's a personal beef that, Lonzo, I actually believe it's personal.
I'm not sold. I'm not. I think they come out of the same fighting team, American Top Team.
They have.
We know Dan Lambert is very good at the promo, probably one of the better, almost like number 2, number 3 in the wrestling world, I would say, behind MJF, behind, maybe Jericho when he's on.
You're talking, I'd go, as non-wrestlers go, he's just behind Paul Heyman.
Yeah.
As non-wrestlers go, just behind Heyman.
So because that, and these are his guys or were his guys, I almost think there's an element of that to it. And it makes do they want to win? Yes. And am I more interested in the fight because of the back and forth? Absolutely. But I'm not sure I buy it completely. And I don't know if I'm just overly skeptical because of how good Dan Lambert is at that sort of thing. But I think that's probably the root of why I'm not completely sold.
Here's where you get me. Because there's a number of stories of moments where Masvidal and Covington were interacting with each other in front of media, but not like press conferences, like practices and whatnot. And there's one story that I read yesterday evening that kind of solidified it. Apparently, and this goes all the way back to 2019, Masvidal and Covington used to be not just friends, but they were roommates. But they had kind of had a falling out over a bunch of stuff. According to ESPN, Masvidal approached Covington and said they should talk after practice. Covington asked what he wanted to talk about, and Masvidal responded by telling him that he was being a little beep. And he didn't appreciate the things Covington had said about him in interviews. Covington agreed they should chat. Masvidal said that he felt that moment was, quote, pretty amicable, end quote, and, quote, not that bad, end quote. But then he said as he turned to walk away, Covington raised his voice and said, I'll blanking kill you, bro. Don't ever talk to me like that. The entire gym had to separate the two of them. This was when they were on the same team. This was 3 years ago that their actual team had to separate them. And it's just been going that direction ever since. The fact that Dan Lambert, as you pointed out, who knows how to sell stuff by hyping stuff, was on ESPN yesterday and they asked him about it. They're like, doesn't this make for a great fight? He's like, I kind of wish they would both do this with people outside of the team, right? I kind of wish they would both do this with people who are on other teams, beef with other teams so that we can sell fights, not each other. Now, Lambert's a smart guy. That might be exactly the ploy to get a cynic like me to go, ooh, maybe it is real. But this is the first fight in a hot minute that I'm like, I think I'm paying for this one. I think I'm buying this one.
Whether I'm sold on the beef or not between the two, it's going to be a good fight. It's absolutely going to be a good fight.
I'm looking forward to it. Let's take a break. Come back here in just a minute. Got a lot of stuff I want to get into. More developments in the Panthers' search for a quarterback. Their stance on Cam Newton, or at least what I think it might be, is out there in public. We're going to talk about that. And for the first time in history, ladies and gentlemen, former Carolina Panther great Steve Smith and I are on the same page. Never happened before. Couldn't stand that guy as a player. Not a big fan as an analyst. But we agree on the draft. Over what, you ask? I'll tell you when we come back on the Rob Brown Show on ESPN Upstate.
So the game is on. That's why I changed it. Or it will
No,
be.
I was going to ask you to. Starts at 1, but
Yeah.
I'd rather have it on. Do I have enough time to hit the restaurant?
No. Sorry.
That's all good.
Not if
Turns
you
out
really
there's
have-
another break.
Not if you really have to go. It's not. I mean, I can make it longer
No.
if need be. Or you could hurry. And, just because I said you don't have enough time doesn't mean you couldn't prove me wrong. You got 2 minutes. You can do it in 2.
Lonzo P's at warp speed. I'm not in the.
It's because I drink so much water. It's just, I go when I can. That's the other thing. Go when you can. So you don't get stuck holding things for way too long. By the way, I agree, Stephen. I think that's how the spiders came here to America. If Rob found out that were true, he would no longer poo-poo chemtrails.
A listener sent us a chemtrail conspiracy video. And I can't tell if he was being serious about it or not. But I'm going to rip it to shreds later.
You're also right, Stephen. That is part of Rob's problem.
That is also correct. That is, I would be a lie to tell you that wasn't true.
And it would be so much worse if there were more people in the building. So,
Oh, yeah. I never get back from break on time.
we were in the theater last night and I had to tell Rob to quit saying my name so loud.
I sat down and said it, and Miss Lisa looks at me and is like, don't say his name. And then Alonzo's like, don't say my name.
I could have went in incognito last night.
Which was hilarious, though, because I got recognized in the lobby.
Right.
I thought, I'm going all the way out to Simpsonville. It's not that it's in the middle of nowhere, but compared to where I am, it's kind of in the middle of nowhere.
It's not really though. Simpsonville is one of the biggest growing areas in it's still in Greenville County, by the way. So they recognize you and probably didn't know who I was, and that's fine.
No, it was one of the guys in the riot, and I know he's interacted with us on the stream a few times.
Okay.
But I think he just didn't want to interject himself. I'll talk to him in the concession stand line for a couple of minutes.
Then try Babbel. In just 15 minutes a day, Babbel teaches you conversations that you will actually use. With 14 languages and lesson topics like travel, business, relationships, and more, you'll learn what matters most to you. Babbel.
Steven, should we give that away? I mean, that's kind of a segment to talk about. Why should we tell you yes or no about that movie?
All right, here we go. The Rob Brown Show's back on your radio. It's ESPN Upstate. Rob and Lonzo and you, 844-GSP, ESPN 844-477-3776. Two big stories coming out regarding the Carolina Panthers quarterback situation. And we've been paying attention to that. Obviously, a lot of discussion about it. So, two things. The first off is that yesterday at the Combine, the day before we told you that, Wednesday, we told you that Scott Fitter and Matt Rule have been taking some time to talk to the press. We interviewed Rashad Beard of the Panther Nation podcast about it yesterday. Scott Fitter did it again yesterday, had some more comments for the media, and as he should have been on day one, was asked about Cameron Newton and should Cam end up back on the team. Should Cam Newton be the starting quarterback next year? I have said a couple of times that as far as cost v benefit ratio goes, I think Cam's the right pick, right? I think he's better than Darnold. I think you're going to save some money by signing because I don't think there's a ton of competition to the point that it's going to cost you as much as it would cost you to get a Kirk Cousins or a Jimmy Garoppolo. And it lets you hang on to your 6th overall draft pick, either to make a pick for an offensive lineman or to trade that pick back. Now, if I'm Matt Rule, I understand that my best option here is to make a splash. So I'll start with Cam Newton, and then I'll go to that. Scott Fitterer gave a 20-minute long press conference yesterday after the Combine. And he was asked, obviously, about Cam Newton. Cam, of course, 32 years old, getting on up there in terms of quarterback age. Fitterer was asked, where's Cam? Where's Cam landing at right now? How's Cam lining up, et cetera, et cetera. And Fitterer said that Cam Newton will, and I quote, know where he stands with the team, end quote, before free agency begins. Now, free agency begins 10 days from today at noon. All right? So a week and a half from today at noon, free agency opens. And if a contract is not signed between then and now, Cam Newton would become a free agent at that point. During his media availability, Fitterer stated that he and Newton always had plans to have a, quote, person-to-person conversation, end quote, this offseason to discuss his future and Carolina. That agreement came back when Newton rejoined the organization in November. Fitterer said, quote, one thing with Cam is when we sat down at Mr. Tepper's house, we always said after the season, when we came close to making a decision, we'd have a discussion and we'd talk person to person first before we share anything. We're still open to Cam, but again, we want to have that conversation with him directly, end quote. So all that means is the option's on the table, right? It doesn't guarantee Cam comes back. Doesn't mean even if he does come back that he's the starter. It just means that the Panthers understand that that is an option. The Panthers realize they may very well find themselves feeling forced back into a corner and having to make a decision about how they want this thing to play out. Now, that's the direction I think you go if you want to keep the 6th overall draft pick, either to draft a top-tier offensive lineman or to trade it back and pick up another couple of picks. And I'm not the only one that feels, however, like if you're Matt Rule, you got to make a splash, right? So Steve Smith, I think, is a little bit frustrated with the Carolina Panthers right now based on A, the search for a quarterback, and B, everything else as a whole with the franchise. So last night, this year's batch of quarterback prospects in the draft took to the field at Lucas Oil to put on a show, to show what they had. And Steve Smith was on that broadcast. Steve Smith was on that broadcast. Lonzo, if you don't mind giving me sound to this computer real quick, you can trust me. This is literally off the NFL Network feed. So, oh, that's right. I forgot that you get 2 of me now. I should really start putting my sound in to the catalog.
Or you could send me a link and I could give it a shot.
Oh, that's
over
true.
here.
That's true. I will send you, Lonzo, the thread with a couple of clips from Steve Smith in it. There it is. So Steve Smith was on the NFL Net. It's not great audio, but it's the best I could find on the fly. And Steve Smith made it very clear, at least to me, the direction that he wants the Panthers to go with their draft pick. There should be two different tweets there in that thread, Lonzo, I believe, that have sound attached to it. Well, a video with sound attached to it. Okay. Well, just play the first one. Here's Steve Smith on the NFL Network.
We need to pair up.
That's fun. Yeah, they're having fun. Why not?
We need to pair up Malik Willis with one of those high 4-2 wideouts, and let's just see how far he can really get that thing out there.
Hopefully that'll mess you up next time.
Hey, we got something in Carolina.
There you go. There you go. That's Steve Smith on the NFL Net. They said we need to pair up Malik with one of those 4-2 wide receivers and see what happens. And Steve chimed in with, we got a few of those in Carolina. Now, I'm not saying that means that Steve Smith is saying that Malik Willis should be drafted by the Carolina Panthers. I will tell you, when I trust broadcasters are being themselves the most? When they're doing like open-ended stuff, right? When I'm doing play-by-play, which I've done during my career, when I'm doing play-by-play, you're going to get a little bit of Rob Brown, right? Dude knocks down the big three. I'm going to talk like a basketball guy. But for the most part, you kind of know the presentation you need to make, and it's kind of coded to that. When you put me on a mic and you ask me to talk about something that's open-ended, right? Next week, at least 1, maybe 2 days, I'm going to be over at Clemson for spring practice on the football field. And if I can make that work out, I'll be calling into Mark Ryan's show and going live on Offsides to talk about what I'm seeing. That is going to be far more true to what Rob Brown is than calling play-by-play. Steve Smith said 2 or 3 more things about Malik in Carolina. In fact, at one point he goes, hey, man, I'm just saying Liberty's not that far away from Charlotte, right? I kind of get the impression Steve wants Malik. Before I got here, I'll go ahead and tell y'all, never liked Steve Smith as a player, right? Not his talent, because the dude is obviously a spectacular talent, and I wouldn't argue that. The problem is Steve Smith, the absolute bleep talker that he is, used to infuriate me as a Saints fan. Never liked the guy. Didn't love him as a broadcaster. Hated him as a player. Me and Steve Smith are riding the same bus together on this one.
I don't like Steve Smith. I've never liked Steve Smith. And people get mad at you when you don't like him. I think he's a bully. And I think I was so glad when he left Carolina. You say that people get so mad at you because Cam was afraid that he'd get beat up if he didn't try to throw him the ball 30 or 40 times a game, whether he was open or not. Because Steve Smith would have broke Cam's nose if he didn't do it. He'd have climbed up there and just broke his nose.
First off, I believe it. Look, if you put me in that guy, I've said this about a number of people, right? I've said this about Stephen A. Smith. I've said it about Skip Bayless. I'll say it about Steve Smith. When they're
Steve
Smith Senior, excuse me. When me and Steve Smith Sr. are riding the same bus together, you better listen. All right? You better listen. Because there's not a lot we're on the same page about. We are on this. I genuinely believe Malik Willis is the right way to go. Malik Willis is the quarterback that I like the most since Lamar Jackson. I like Malik more than I liked Joey Burrow. I like Malik more than I liked Andrew Luck. And these are all guys I liked. I like Malik. I think Malik's got it in him to be a star in the NFL. You passed on Justin Fields. You passed on Trey Lance last year. Don't make the mistake a third time. And I know Matt Rule's got 1 year to do it, but I think he can hedge his bets, Lonzo, because if he gets a guy like Malik, and Malik shows a lot of promise in year number one because of what you believe, which is Matt Rule may not be done. If he can get a lot of promise out of Malik Willis in 1 year, I think he can hedge for another. I think drafting Malik at number 6 is the way to go.
Is it out of the realm of possibility that Carolina trades out of 6?
No, not at all.
That they look at the fact that these quarterbacks are not on the level of what they need. And if they trade out, they could get a couple picks that they could go after multiple linemen.
No, in fact, I genuinely believe, Zoe, that if they don't draft Malik Willis, they will trade back. I think those are the two options on the table. There's a lot of folks that believe strongly that Charles Cross, the offensive lineman out of Mississippi State, maybe the best tackle outside of Evan Neal in this draft, is the way to go with 6 overall. And he might be. But I think you can trade back with New Orleans or Pittsburgh or one of the teams that are looking for a quarterback. I think you trade back and pick up 2 different, maybe 3 different offensive linemen with promise elsewhere, right? I think the 2 options for Carolina are Malik Willis, or you trade back later in the first round, pick up a couple of seconds and a third, and add some draft capital to you. Those are the options. But we'll see. Draft is what? Looking at about a month and a half, a little over a month and a half away. Quick break. Back after this. I'm Rob. He's Lonzo. This is ESPN Upstate. Got multiple texters texting in to say that WRD is playing multiple things on top of each other.
Well, then you leave the room, and I need to leave the room. But I got to leave the room.
Go ahead. I'll put it on break. Be right back, stream. We got to run and take care of stuff.
there too.
Gotcha.
So I think it might be building wide.
The Rob Brown Show rolls on. This is ESPN Upstate. Welcome back, friends. I'm Rob. He is the great one, Lonzo, and my phone is yelling at me now for some reason. Stop it. Stop it. Wait for it. Hold it. Hang on to it. Sorry, that was
Words to live by. Wait for it. Hold it. Hang on to it.
Hold it. I don't know if you guys remember. How could you forget if you were listening to the show, the monumental conversation that Lonzo and I had about men's restroom etiquette a few days ago. So last night, I became an honorary member of the Reitzel family as I joined Lonzo, Miss Lisa, and friend of the show, Cameron. What do we call him on air? He's got to have an on air name.
I hear he's just Cameron. Over there, he's show contributor, but he doesn't contribute to this show.
No, yeah, he doesn't. But I'm planning on it. I'm gonna.
Are you?
I'm planning on it. Well, not him, but
yeah. Just
So anyway,
make that ego grow. You go ahead.
So anyway, we went to see Batman last night. Sorry, the Batman last night. We went to see the Batman last night, and after the 3-hour movie let out, which we'll talk about in Fanboy Friday later, spoiler-free review of the Batman. After the movie let out, I went to the restroom because of those of you that watch the stream, you know that very frequently I have to leave the studio because of the stream. If you get what I'm saying, all right. So very frequently I have to. Listen. I got a 5'4" bladder and a 6'3" body. It is what it is. All right. So the lady friend, like the last question she asked me when I was leaving, I'm like, hey, I'm going to see the movie with Lonzo. I'll be back. And she goes, how many times are you going to have to pee? It's 3 hours long. And I went, probably twice, right? Probably twice. It was good enough that I'm like, when it got to the point of like mass critical load, I'm like, nope. I'm leaning forward in the seat, scrunched together as I can get, because the movie doesn't let up.
And I'm thinking, Rob isn't that interesting.
Yeah. So anyway, the movie, this is not that what the story's about. So the movie lets out, and I go into the restroom, and the restroom is like funeral in a church quiet. I'm talking nothing. The only sound in the restroom is the water faucets occasionally turning. And by the way, you gross ass people, wash your hands. All right. I can't tell you how many dudes I watched last night go to the restroom and then just walk right out. Wash your hands. You psychopaths, wash your hands. Anyway.
There's a good shot that you actually get more germs from washing your hands inside of there.
Use soap and wash your hands. 90% of faucets you don't even have to touch anymore. You don't even have to do the hard work of turning a faucet. You just put your hands out and the sink does the work.
That's how those work, by the way. Yeah.
Anyway, restroom, silent as the grave. Not a word was spoken from the time I walked in, waited in the 3 or 4 person line, took my time at the urinal, washed my hands because I'm not a freaking disgusting heathen, and walked out. Not a word was said and it wasn't like me and one other person. It was the entire movie theater going into this restroom. Not a word was spoken by a single bro in that bathroom. It was one of the, not even like the 2 buddies next to each other at the urinal. Nobody making a dad joke.
So
nothing.
So first of all, you're complaining about proper restroom etiquette that we had talked about on the show, like just a few days before.
I'm not complaining about it. This is not lodging a complaint. It was more, I don't think I've ever experienced that before.
Because
we're not a word.
I guess the rule doesn't exist in Florida that it exists everywhere else, that you don't talk about the movie until you get to the car. I've only lived in 2 places, and that's been the rule, the unwritten rule, both places. I don't believe I've been in that particular restroom, and I've seen a lot of movies there where I've heard discussion of a movie inside of that restroom.
No, see, it's right. Like, I get you don't come out and be like, can you believe that the Riddler was the Joker the whole time? Right? Like, there's not that.
He was not, by the way. He was not. Okay. So, yeah.
I'm not saying that, but like, not even a, hey, man, that was good, wasn't it? Yeah, great. That was awesome. Really enjoyed that. I thought Robert Pattinson did a great job. Not even silent as the grave. It was quiet to the level of off-putting. Like, I'm looking around like somebody's.
But it was.
Walked out of there and was like, that was weird. I cannot have been the only one.
Well, it's probably they thought that was weird because you were watching people to see if they washed their hands or not.
All right.
So it's probably what it was.
You don't have to watch. Just wash your hands. Don't make me the weird. In a room full of dudes that pulled out their junk, utilized it, put it away, and then just went, I shall carry on my day in this condition. Don't make me the weird one. If you didn't wash your hands, you're the weird one. I stand by that. We literally just came out of a pandemic, people. Wash your hands, please.
Maybe you need to get a job as a bathroom attendant and you can take care of that problem.
No, bathrooms need a bouncer, not an attendant. All right. The worst dude in the world is the dude whose job is to sit at the bathroom sink and give you soap and then expect $1 for it.
Wait, that doesn't just happen in movies? I thought that
No.
was, I've never, I guess,
No.
Pay grade. I've never been to a place like that.
I have been in clubs where there is a dude who, when you are done, sits by the sink. He'll turn on the faucet for you. Hard job. Somebody's got to do it. After you rinse your hands, he'll apply the soap for you. Then when you're done, he will hand you a paper towel with which to dry your hands. At the fancier clubs, he'll then offer you a tray with a breath mint on it, and you're supposed to give that guy money.
All right. So why do you need a breath mint coming out of the restroom? I'm just...
well, if you're in a club and you're going back out to where the ladies are, you want to be fresh and so clean.
Okay, that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
All right.
Right? Like but still, if you're, and I don't demean jobs, right? Like whenever somebody's talking about bad jobs, they always go to the example of what? Well, do you want to get paid that much to pick up trash? That's a hard freaking job.
And by the way, my understanding is those guys make some good cash.
And they work their asses off. That is a commendable job that somebody's got to do, right? The only job, there are two jobs I don't respect, Alonzo. Two. Social media influencer. I do not respect you. Okay? And bathroom attendant in the men's restroom. I don't respect that job. Get a better job. Literally go out in the club and just clean stuff up. That's a more commendable job. Stop it. We don't need that. And but if that person's job is to just guilt trip people into washing their hands, then I'm all for it.
So it bothered you that it was really silent in the restroom. I don't. Here's an experiment. Have you been to other theaters in the area?
Yeah.
And so you haven't seen that anywhere else?
No.
So you think it's just there?
Yes. No, I'm not saying I think it's only there. I'm just saying it's the first time it's ever happened, and it was off-putting.
Well, so you need to go see another blockbuster type movie and see if the same thing happens.
I guess I do. It didn't happen after Spider-Man. Saw that in theaters.
It could just be that theater, I guess, because it's always been my experience there.
Didn't happen after Black Widow. Not that was a blockbuster, but didn't happen after that. Texter says, what if you don't touch your junk? Am I still obligated to wash my hands? Well, if you're a dude, how is all I'm asking? Like, you just got to thrust it out the zipper hole there?
The good Lord has given some people more and some people less. And, you know.
Still got to put it. Okay. All right. No. LMAO at I shall carry on with my day after putting it away. Hilarious. Texter says, went to an arcade bar. There was a dude there in the bathroom, a very small bathroom. And I'm like, bro, we're just trying. You almost got me, Texter. You almost got me. Well done. Well done. Take a break. Back after this to wrap up hour one. And yes, we will talk about sports. But I had to get that conversation out of my well-washed hands. Back after this on the Rob Brown Show at ESPN Upstate. Not what I intended that segment to be. Like, at all. Hi, Amanda. Welcome to the show.
Don't make me have to open up the text line because I never do. Now I'm curious as to what that last thing was. Did it have anything to do with pinball?
No,
Okay. All right.
No,
It was an
no.
arcade bar, so I'm my mind is going places.
it had to do with substance-related adult recreational behavior in the restroom.
In that case, Steven, he still would say you need to wash your hands.
Wash your hands. If you touch any part of you that is not exposed to the world, yes, wash your hands. If Diesel knows that Lonzo's rubbing his chest and touching the board, he's going to flip a lid.
Why is that? That's what I want to know.
And yes, Zach, primarily those are the recreational establishments in which bathroom attendants are known to reside. But I've been into some nicer, like regular clubs that they have bathroom attendants. And I get it, right? Like, you know what it used to be?
So are these the club, not the club? Because the club was,
So when you go to the club, it's just the club, right?
Right.
I have been in some the clubs that have a bathroom attendant, but like ordinarily it's like a dude in chinos and a polo. And I'm like, no, this just makes it seem like you found a way to get paid to stare at dudes in a bathroom. And it's a little off-putting, right? When you go into the club, right? Like the club, they're in there and that guy's in like a suit and tie. He's like a butler. Like he's genuinely like a bathroom butler to ensure that your bathroom going experience is as nice as it can be, enjoyable as possible. But it used to be that, like,
you know what? My enjoyable restroom experience is to go relieve myself and leave. I don't need anyone in there to offer me
hands.
Whatever. That goes without saying.
But
I don't.
It used to be there would be like a little block, not block, but like a little almost piece of furniture. And you would put your shoe up there and that guy would like shine your shoes for you to make sure you got nothing on your shoes and make sure you were clean and fresh. He would straighten out your shirt so you could go up and like if there was anything wrong, he'd straighten you out, put you together.
Thanks, Dad.
Give you a little dab of cologne. And don't get me wrong.
All right, so I didn't dabs of cologne and
Scouts
stuff.
honor, man.
Okay.
Scouts honor. Now this is like these are the 1%er clubs that obviously I hang
See,
out at, right?
I'll never experience that.
These are the 1%er clubs that I hang out at.
And I don't want to live vicariously through you because I think all that's creepy.
I gotta tell you, life is good when you have people.
Do you feel like a
whose job is to take care of you? It's pretty good. It's pretty nice. So it used to be like this guy would shine your shoes and he'd straighten you out, and if you had wrinkles and he'd lint roll you to make sure that you were clean, like it was nice. Give you a little dab of cologne, like it was nice to be taken care of. But they don't do all of that anymore. Now they go soap.
That sounds like a work release program that guy has to do.
No, it used to be genuinely like a butler. His job was to make sure you were put together, and it has now devolved to soap, paper towel, give me money. Which that's where you lose me, man. I am paying enough in this club already. Just pay that guy more and have him take care of me.
So how much do you tip a guy like that? I mean, is there a standard?
If I'm obligated, I put $1 down.
Okay.
If it's old school where it's like shoe shine, put me together, cologne, like the whole nine, I'll do $4 or $5. Some of you have very strong opinions on bathroom attendants. And then there's Nolan who says, if I'm drinking 20 cheap beers and I'm using the bathroom downtown, leave me alone. There's been more restroom talk on this show this week than the previous 2 years, ladies and gentlemen. All right. We're about 1 minute and 18 seconds away from tip-off of the SEC women's basketball tournament game between Aaliyah Boston and the Lady Gamecocks taking on the Arkansas Razorbacks.
Man, look at them.
Oh, they're having a good time. Give me a team that's loose and having fun, Lonzo. And they are. They're dancing around. I love it. I'm here for it. We'll keep you up to date on this game as it progresses. Aaliyah Boston, your college basketball player of the year. Both sides, if you ask me. I got no problem saying that. Yeah, that was good. That was good. You deserve credit for that, even though nobody knows what I'm talking about. All right. Coming up in the next hour of the show, we'll talk a little more about the Panthers and Scott Fitterer. The European Super League is not dead, and some big-name European soccer administrators are not happy about it. We're going to talk about that. Spencer Rattler spoke out. We gave you some comments yesterday. We'll give you some more. And Tiger Woods is out for blood. Back after this on The Rob Brown Show, ESPN Upstate.
It was a moment of panic there when I realized that's going to run out, and I can't find the one I used, and it's like, no.
Virginia Tech, while South Carolina, they are going to match up against Auburn in their regular season finale. Postseason conference tournaments, Furman basketball, they are going to open up their run in the SoCon tournament tomorrow, taking on the winner of today's Mercer Western Carolina game, while Wofford also getting a bye in the second round. They match up against VMI tomorrow. Coastal Carolina basketball taking part in the Sun Belt tournament. They fall short, losing to Georgia Southern yesterday by a 70-64 record. We'll see if they have any postseason opportunity. They sit with a record of 16-13. Download the Score app today. Lightning fast sports alerts so you never miss a thing. It's why the Score app is one of North America's most popular sports apps. With your ESPN Upstate Sports Center update, I'm Matt Pauley.
So the boss was in there trying to fix things. And I told him I was having some problems. He's like, well, maybe you should go back in there in case something else happens in there. I was like, that's a good point. It can't be coincidence that I had just put a couple things in wide orbit, and then I looked back and they were gone. And it's like, ooh. Yeah, it's a good question, Nolan. And like in Rob's case, where he goes to the restroom quite often, do you have to tip every time you go?
I mean, you don't have to tip at all. Like if I know I'm going to be in there a bunch, I'll do like 110 at the beginning, and then I'm done for a while. But again, it also depends on, are you taking care of me, or are you just going squirt with the soap and that's it?
Prism in the first break.
There are some degenerates on the text line. Some absolute degenerates. 71307 is the preferred home services text line.
Don't be acting surprised.
I mean, they're just bold, Lonzo. They're just bold.
They're making you laugh, though. You're just upset that you can't say those things on the air.
100%. Yeah. If this was the uncensored Rob After Dark podcast, those texts are going to the top of the list. But it's not. Just no texter. I see you. You're a degenerate, and I want to hang out with you.
He has acknowledged you.
Yeah. I want to hang out with you. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Hour number 2 of the Rob Brown Show's on your radio. This is ESPN Upstate. Thanks for hanging out with us. Lonzo, tomorrow night, Mike Krzyzewski will coach the Duke Blue Devils at Cameron Indoor Stadium on the campus of Duke University for the final time. Now, obviously, he'll stay with Duke to whatever point of the postseason they go. Had a decent season this year, but tomorrow night's the last night at Duke. There are tickets for that game. Coach K's last run as the head coach of Duke at Duke, there are tickets going for $50K to get in the door to watch Mike Krzyzewski coach for the last time. Now, obviously, Mike Krzyzewski's an icon. Obviously, Mike Krzyzewski's name is going to be tossed in with John Wooden as the GOAT of college basketball coaches. Dude did it 41 years. He's got a fistful of rings to show for it. Mike Krzyzewski is going to walk away as a legend of the game. There's no doubt about it. But here's what I find really interesting. There is obviously, outside of North Carolina, most people, and this may shock some of you, dislike Duke. Like, not big fans of the Blue Devils. And Mike Krzyzewski is taking some heat, Lonzo, for some comments that he had yesterday when he was doing his final presser before his last game against Cameron Indoor. And, of course, they schedule it against North Carolina because why wouldn't you? So Mike Krzyzewski, taking the court Saturday at Cameron Indoor for the last time, sat down for a presser. And in that presser, he was asked a little bit about his memories and what it's going to mean for him to coach at Cameron Indoor for the last time. How's it going to feel to walk onto that floor for the last time, to walk off that floor for the last time, to walk into and out of the locker room for the last time as the head coach at Duke. And Mike Krzyzewski said, Lonzo, quote, "There's so much about me. This moment is about us." And he gestured towards the Duke team and Duke as a whole, right? Well, he's getting blown up on social media right now. Getting blown up on social media because people are saying, Lonzo, that, hey, Mike Krzyzewski, if this was so much about Duke and not about you, why did you announce your retirement preseason, setting up a season's worth of Mike Krzyzewski celebration that you knew was going to happen, instead of waiting until the end of the year so that everybody would be talking about Duke and Mike Krzyzewski instead of Mike Krzyzewski? And then, why did you actively petition the NCAA to be put into the Midwest region, which is being played this year in Chicago, Illinois, which is, and this may shock you, where Mike Krzyzewski is from? So you didn't retire preseason. You made this season about you. And you asked the NCAA to put you where your bracket is in Chicago so you could play out your bracket in front of Mike Krzyzewski's people from the great city of Chicago, Illinois. A lot of social media fans are beating him up because he made this whole season about him. But now that people are actively talking about it, he's like, no, talk about my team instead. Lonzo, is it fair to beat up on Mike Krzyzewski 24 hours before his final game as the coach at Cameron Indoor?
Fair or not, in the social media world, it's what we've come to expect. And as far as him announcing his retirement early, I think it's a good move because his successor's already been announced, right? So it's not like they're going to have to go search for a new coach. You get a moment. So whenever they're mentioning him, they're also pointing out the dude on the bench who's taking his place. And I think that's cool, rather than suddenly breaking news, Mike Krzyzewski has retired. And now suddenly there's this big old coaching search. People are going crazy. I don't have a problem with that.
But I think he could have done that preseason, but just kept it internal, right? You tell the AD, you tell the president, and then you
how do we know it was his choice? Maybe the university is like, hey, you've done so much for us. You've done so much for basketball. We want a chance for you to be celebrated the entire season.
I mean, he can say no. He is Mike Krzyzewski.
Yeah, and they're still the university. I think it's so easy to pile on and go, yeah, for sure. This guy, look at this guy's ego. It had to be him. He had to do all this, when at the same time he works for somebody, and that person, that entity he works for, Duke University, probably said, hey, we want to celebrate you. And as far as him lobbying for a certain area to play in, maybe he has an idea of what teams are going to get sent there, and maybe he thinks he has an advantage to play in that region.
I mean, he will have an advantage because
they're Duke, but still.
No. His home, I mean, yes, they're Duke. Duke has a national fan base, right? They're the Yankees of college basketball. They're the most hated team, but also the most loved team in college basketball. He's going to have a home field in it, but also he's from Chicago, right? Like we talked about Dustin Poirier, an MMA fighter that I like specifically because he's from Louisiana, right? He's from a place I got family living in Louisiana. We are a tribal species, right? We are a tribal species. We gravitate towards people that are from the same place as us or have the same things that we like in common, etc. So Chicago is going to show out for Coach K if Duke does indeed get placed in Chicago. Here's the fun thing about this job. I've been asked in the past, how is it that you can, for instance, be critical of Clemson, but then send a request over for a press pass to go cover a game? How can you be critical of South Carolina, but then call over and ask for an interview on your show? The answer is because that's what sports is, right? That's what sports is. It's kind of the great thing about sports is, with politics, when we get into all that, it actually means something. In the grand scheme of things, sports don't really mean anything to our lives other than here's a break from your reality for a little while to watch Aaliyah Boston and the Gamecocks, who currently lead the Arkansas Razorbacks 8-4 with just a tick under 5 minutes to play in the opening quarter. Another rebound there for Aaliyah Boston. I think she's at 4 already. She might threaten triple-double before halftime at this rate. I'm not going to lie.
Real easy to get rebounds when people aren't making shots. I'm just saying, you make the shots, there's not as many rebounds.
Fair.
The shooting hasn't been stellar
Shooting
so
has been
far.
bad in this game so far. I'm betting both teams are under 30% right now. Another turnover. Boston with the turnover, 3-on-1 back the other way. She'll give the dish. That's another assist. That's 4 for her now. Yeah, she's working on triple-double by halftime at this rate. Anyway, all right, so back to what we were talking about. I think that it's fair to criticize Coach K, right? Like, I've got this big thing about my character on the air. If you meet me in real life, as some of you have done, Lonzo, I'm not nearly as obnoxious in real life as I am on the radio, right? I mean, I'm obnoxious, but not nearly as much.
I don't think you're obnoxious. I just think you're loud. But
loud.
There's a difference between being loud and being obnoxious.
Sure.
Obnoxious guys, hey, look at me.
Lines like, hey, I do this job because I'm good at this job. And I do know I'm good at the job, but I don't like go around bragging about it, right? But here's the thing. When you say one thing and do another, right? That's when it's fair to criticize somebody. When you do one thing and say another, when you are hypocritical in the way that you do things, that's when people take shots at you, right? That's when people lay you out. And it's deserved. When your actions don't match up with what you're preaching, that's deserved. The problem and the reason Mike Krzyzewski's taking heat is twofold. Number one, he coaches at the most hated basketball program in America, the most loved, but also the most hated. And number two, his words don't match the actions, right? Now, let's say that theoretically speaking, yes, Duke went to Mike Krzyzewski and said, we don't really care what you want. We're going to do a celebration because you're Mike Krzyzewski. Mike Krzyzewski could have just never said, and I understand, like Lonzo said, if you wait till the season's over, you're way late in the hunt for a coach and all that. Mike Krzyzewski could have announced his retirement before the March tournament, and it would have been all about the team all year long. The point that I'm making here is I'm going around social media, and there's a lot of people beating up Mike K, and then there's a lot more people beating up those people. I think it's fair. I think it's fair to say it because the words don't match the actions, and it's okay to call that out sometimes. That's it. I respect Mike Krzyzewski. I genuinely do. Mike Krzyzewski's going to go down as the GOAT, I think. But no one's impervious to criticism. Texas says, Coach K has earned the right to go out any way he wants. Get over it. Put your petty little punks that hide behind keyboards. Okay, I don't know where the rest of that goes. Here's what I'll say. I agree with you, Texter. I agree with you. Mike Krzyzewski can go out any way he wants. If Mike Krzyzewski went to Duke and said, I want a life-size golden statue of me built out front of the stadium before my last game, he should get it.
Mike he's a little bit older. Is he even on social media? Does he even see any of this stuff?
Probably not.
He may have an assistant to tell him about it, but more than likely, and I'm not playing the age game, but I am, I guess. It would not shock me if he's not on any of this stuff.
I agree. I agree that Mike Krzyzewski has the right to go out however he wants to go out.
If the person you're going after doesn't see how you're going after them, then what's the point of doing it?
I'm more just asking from the conversation of a fan's perspective, right?
I want to know, if you troll and it's not seen, are you still trolling? I guess you are, but the effect of the troll is not. It's ineffective.
I think they're trolling Duke fans more than anything else, right? To blast the coaches, to blast the fans.
All right, I see that.
Because Duke fans love Mike K. All right, a couple of texters that have come in so far. Texter says, Rob, quit putting down all the Clemson alumni who are going to support their favorite basketball team on Saturday night. Good burn. Good burn. Texter says, no, it's not fair. He's hyping his team up for the tourney. Where's the foul there? I didn't say it's foul. I'm asking, is it fair or foul of the fans to go after him, right? Is there a fair or foul attack on Mike Krzyzewski? But as Lonzo pointed out, he probably doesn't hear it. Texter says, I broke up with a girl in college because she was a big Duke fan. I went home to meet her parents, and they gave me crap the whole time I was there about how their dog uses a UNC blanket to poop on. So I'm very glad to see Coach K go. He was a great coach, but I'm a UNC fan, so bye. Yeah. But see, that's the thing, right? Roy Williams went out at Carolina. There was no pomp, circumstance, and fanfare. Roy waited to the end of the season, then it went, K, have a great time. Bye. All
right, something's been bugging me this entire time. So if you pay $50,000 for a ticket,
get the door for courtside, but
what if he unretires? Do you feel like you've been cheated? That you paid all this money to see someone's final game and then they come back and decide to coach again? Doesn't that devalue how much money you spent on being able to say I was there when they retired?
You got me. You got me. I know I wouldn't be thrilled about it. On StubHub right now, Lonzo, the cheapest available ticket on StubHub right now to get in the door, you are sitting behind the basket. Let's see, section 8. Okay, so I guess kind of diagonal back to the basket. You are sitting 3 rows above courtside. Here, I maybe even can show you. Here's your seats, Lonzo. Let me see if I can get this to blow up. I can't go any higher. But anyway, the seats are about 35 rows up, facing perpendicular to the court, except the court's over there, right?
Wow.
So the seats, Lonzo, if you were standing on the court, this is the way that I'm facing for the game, right? Like legit.
Why
70
are
degrees
there
to the court.
even seats like that? That makes no sense.
I don't know.
But I'm looking at the seating in the arena where the women are playing right now, and it looks like a good spot.
So here, you can kind of see it. There's the seats facing that way, and that's where they play, right? $3,000 to sit in those seats on Saturday night. $3,000, and that's your seats. Cool, man. Texas says, you're either rich, a moron, or a rich moron. Another texter says, well, if you spend more than $500 on a sports ticket, you are a complete moron. I'm sorry. Say this. I have, Lonzo, in my life, I have 2 major sports regrets. Actually, I'm going to make this a question. You know what? Hold that. I'm going to ask you guys this when we come back. This brings up something I've wanted to ask you guys in the past and never got to it. What's your biggest sports regret? I got 2 major sports regrets that I live with. I'm going to ask you what your biggest sports regrets are. I'll explain mine, and we'll get yours when we come back on the Rob Brown Show, ESPN Upstate.
Prisma.
Let me tell you about my friends at Prisma Health right here in the Upstate. South Carolina Gamecocks, Clemson Tigers. They don't agree on a whole heck of a lot, but there is one thing they both do agree on. When their athletes are injured, when they need somebody, a medical healthcare professional, to come in to look after their players and the safety and health and well-being of those players, they call Prisma Health. And they call Prisma Health for a number of reasons. Number one, they have the largest and most well-trained staff of medical healthcare professionals that you are going to find from any healthcare network in the entire area. They have got specialists for anything and everything. And if you want to learn what I mean, go to prismahealth.org. You got a sleep disorder? They got somebody that can help you. You got a psychiatric disorder? They got somebody there that can help you. You got an orthopedic need? They got somebody there that can help you. And they've got locations spread all around the upstate of South Carolina. So it doesn't matter where you are. Playing pickup soccer out in the sticks. You're running at the local Y. You're downtown and you step off the curb wrong and pop your knee. Ask me how I know that specific situation. Prisma Health's got a location that is convenient and accessible to you close by. Go to prismahealth.org to learn more about how the official healthcare provider for the Gamecocks and the Tigers can be the official healthcare provider for you and your family as well. Prismahealth.org. It's our friends at Prisma Health right here in the Upstate.
Didn't know there were more of those around.
Basketball. They're going to open up their run in the SoCon tournament tomorrow, taking on the winner of today's Mercer, Western, and Carolina game. While Wofford also getting a bye in the second round. They match up against BMI tomorrow. Coastal Carolina basketball taking part in the Sun Belt tournament.
Someone pointed out about her shoulder brace. That is huge.
What's that?
She's got a shoulder brace on.
Oh, yeah.
So shooting well, though.
Download the Score app today. Lightning fast.
Look how tall she is.
So you never miss a thing. It's why the Score app is one of North America's most popular sports apps. With your ESPN Upstate Sports Center update, I'm Matt Pollard.
ESPN Upstate is your home for Furman Paladins men's basketball. Every play, every game on ESPN Upstate. 97.7 FM Greenville, 97.1 FM Spartanburg. On your computer, smart speaker, and phone on the Odyssey app.
I'm Chelsea Messenger, helping you beat the books with BetQL. It's the final day of the regular season in the MAC. Northern Illinois hosts Ohio, and on paper, the Huskies are bad. Overall this year, they've been among the worst offenses and worst defenses in college basketball. But in conference play, they've crept closer to the middle of the pack. Northern Illinois has covered the number in 7 straight games against the spread.
You're the one everyone looks to for answers. Come rain or shine, the job must get done, and you're the one who makes it happen. We get you, Jackie in Fresno, putting your employee safety first. And Maddie in Chattanooga, whose local Granger team knows him by name. We're here for you and all the ones who get it done, with 24/7 customer support and access to product specialists to help you find what you need. Call clickgranger.com or just stop by. Granger, for the ones who get it done.
This feature sponsored by Indeed. If you need to hire, then you need Indeed. The all-in-one hiring platform helps you schedule and conduct video interviews right from your employer dashboard. Finding your next great hire has never been more streamlined. Visit Indeed.com/credit.
A job search can be a frustrating journey filled with long, lonely hours on the computer and countless attempts to get notified for it. ZipRecruiter gets it. No one wants to feel alone in their job search. That's why ZipRecruiter's AI does so much of the work for you. They save you time by sending you jobs you can apply for with one click, and they pick your profile to employ. So you stand out. Job seekers, feel the love. Sign up for free at ZipRecruiter.com. Once again, that's ZipRecruiter.com.
Count on the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts to recommend the best products for your vehicle and budget. Get maximum cooling system performance for 10 years or 300,000 miles with Heat Long Life Universal Premix Antifreeze and Cooler. Now just $3.99 after mail-in rebate. Stop by your local O'Reilly Auto Parts today or visit O'ReillyAuto.com.
There's the rest, and then there's the...
So I live with two major sports regrets in my life. I'll probably think of more, but there are two that jump out at me. The first one is the lesser one, but it still bugs me. I told you guys last year I went up to Beantown, went up to Baston with the lady friend, and I got to go to Fenway Park. Got to go watch a Yankees-Red Sox game at Fenway Park, and it was unlike anything I have ever seen before. But while the crowd was great, and the heckling was great, and the smack talk was great, what really got me, what really kind of blew my mind was Fenway itself, right? So when you go to Fenway Park, I found this kind of cool. When you go to Fenway Park, around Fenway Park, down the first and third base line, there are streets, and on those streets are stores and restaurants and bars and anything else you can think of. But what's interesting about them, Zoe, is that when you go to Fenway, you give your ticket to the game before you get onto the street, right? They scan your ticket, and the street is actually part of the ballpark. So once you scan your ticket and you go into the street, that is part of the ballpark. And you can go into the game and come back out and go back out on the street and go to the bars and then go back into the game. It's like part of the environment, which is awesome. And so we went, the lady friend and I, and we stood outside on the street, went up and down and hit the bars and hit the restaurants and tried different foods and whatnot. And then we walked into the stadium, and she's like, we got to go in this gate. And I'm like, well, our seats are over there. And she's like, no, trust me, come in this gate. And we go in, Lonzo, and you walk up a ramp, and you come out into Fenway, and we were directly across from the Green Monster. Straight ahead of us was the Green Monster. And as a baseball guy, right, that's history. I mean, that's 100+ years of history. This is the field that Lou Gehrig played on, Babe Ruth played on, and Ted Williams played on, and all the great old Yankees and Red Sox, and the same field that Big Papi and Manram and Pedro and Pedroia and all the great players of my childhood played. And then over there is the bullpen. Fun little lesson. I didn't know this. The bullpen is in a really weird place in Fenway, Lonzo. It's kind of built into right field, but instead of underneath. A lot of bullpens are built underneath the fans, right? This one's built in front of the fans. So if you buy a right field ticket that's on the wall, you hang out over into the Red Sox bullpen. And that's a really weird setup. And then I found out the reason why was because back in the day, Ted Williams was a push hitter. He hit his home runs to right field, except for Ted didn't have great distance to right field. So they built the bullpen in right, Lonzo, to justifiably move the fence up about 30 feet to let Ted Williams hit more home runs, right?
Good move. I don't think you could get away with that now.
You absolutely could not, but you did then. And it was really interesting. And there's all this history. There's a big ladder that's on the Green Monster, and the bottom of the ladder is about 12 feet up in the air, and the ladder goes to the top of the monster. But what's interesting about it, Lonzo, is you can't reach the ladder from the top of the monster down, and you can't get to the ladder from the bottom of the monster up. And it's not an extendable ladder. It's just a bolted on metal ladder, right? And the reason that ladder is there is because before there were seats on top of the monster, there was just a big net. Because right on the other side of the monster, there's apartments and houses right there, right? And so during the Yankees and Red Sox games before they put the net up, if somebody hit a home run over the monster to the left, it would just hit people's houses. And the Red Sox were having to pay for broken windows and damage to houses all the time. So they put up this big net. Well, if a Red Sox player hit a home run during the game, they'd stop the game to send a guy to climb a ladder to get the ball out from the net and bring it back down so the ball could go back into play. Because this is back before they use 850 baseballs a game, right? Well, after they got to the point they built seats up there and that ladder wasn't needed, they just left the ladder. They just cut it down so you couldn't get to it, but they decided to leave it up there. Bunch of cool little random trivia history facts about history in Fenway. And the best part of that trip to me was getting to go see Yankees Red Sox at Fenway because I got to go to one of America's historic baseball parks. The biggest regret that I have is that I never went to a game at Old Yankee Stadium. I never went to a game in the house that the Babe built. I never went to go see where DiMaggio played. I never went to go see where all the great Yankees of the heyday, all the baseball legends, cut their teeth, right? I never saw that field because I always said, I'll get there one day. One day when I can appreciate it more, I'll get there. One day when I have more money, I'll go. And then one day they said, we're done. This is it. Last season. And I couldn't make it that year, obviously, because when they announced it was the last year for Yankee Stadium, those tickets became unobtainable for me. And then they knocked it down. I never got the chance to go to Old Yankee Stadium. And it's one of those sports things that I will never forgive myself for. I should have figured it out. I should have sold whatever I needed to sell to buy one ticket to go to one game to see Old Yankee Stadium. And I never did it. And that will live with me. That will live with me forever. The other regret that I have, and it was triggered by that text that said, if you spend more than $500 on a sports ticket, you're a complete moron. I'm sorry. The other sports regret that I have, Lonzo, 2009, the Saints made it to the Super Bowl, right? And Drew Brees, Sean Payton, Reggie Bush, Pierre Thomas, Marcus Colston, Jeremy Shockey, the gang, made it to the Super Bowl. Now, I, as a Saints fan, had been convinced from the time that I was born until the time they won the Super Bowl, I'll never get to see my team win a Super Bowl. And then they made it. And I had a cousin call me about 3 weeks before the Super Bowl. Well, I guess 2 weeks before the Super Bowl. It was like the day after the Saints won the NFC Championship game. So like 2 weeks before the Super Bowl. A cousin calls me and he goes, Rob, do you want to go to the Super Bowl? I got a ticket. I'm like, yeah, man. How much is it? It's like $700. Now, Rob is 24. And Lonzo, not only do I work in radio at this point, but I'm in like my first year in radio, right? Or like first year in radio. Not even a full year at this point. For those of you that don't know a lot about radio, what's that first year or two as a substitute producer for you like in radio, Lonzo?
Yeah, first of all, you're part-time, you're making no money, and you could be called at any moment to come in and fill in.
And if you can't show up, you're pointless.
Yeah, and then suddenly, they find somebody else to replace you.
Yep.
And the best way to work your way up is to be that guy who's here for anything they ask for.
And whenever they ask you to be there.
And I just want to commend Rob that he's still that guy. Whenever we needed help, we'll jump right in there. So
I love the station. I want it to do well. I want it to do well. So anyway, he goes there about $750, $750. I don't remember how much it was exactly, but it's in the range of $700 to $800. And I said, let me think about it. Because I'm a part-time radio producer and college student at the time who's trying not to accrue student debt. So not only am I not making a lot of money, but what little money I'm making is going into tuition to pay off classes as I go. So I called him back like 3 days later. Well, first off, I went to my boss and I'm like, hey, I might have an opportunity to go down to Miami for the Super Bowl. We're in the Florida Panhandle. And at this point, post-Katrina, Destin, Fort Walton Beach, we kind of affectionately and jokingly call it New Orleans East because so many people from Louisiana came to Destin, right? We got a big Saints following here. I got potential to go down there and be at the Super Bowl. Do you want me to do some shows from down there? And my boss goes, well, if you're going, sure. And I went, well, I was kind of hoping maybe you would like float me some money, like, Give me some money. And what I was trying to do, Lonzo, was I was trying to get him to float me a check for like a K for hotel rooms and equipment hauling. And I was just going to use it to buy a ticket because I was unethical at 24. But I was going to stay. I was no joke. I was going to sleep in my car in Miami to go to that Super Bowl, right? He goes, yeah, we don't have money to give you for that. If you buy the ticket and you go, then yeah, we'll have you broadcast from there, right? So then I spent basically a week trying to figure out, can I come up with $700 to buy a ticket to go to the Super Bowl? I will sleep in my car, right? Or I will drive down there, enjoy the Super Bowl, and drive right back and stop in the whatever. And basically what it came down to, as like a 24-year-old idiot in first year of radio and paying to go to college, was the only way I was coming up with that money was to either sell A, literally everything I own, or B, sell my car and Greyhound down there and back. Because my dad loved me and gave me a great life, but he was not coming off $750 for a ticket to a game. Because if he was, he's gonna go to the game, right? So I ended up not going to the Super Bowl. My boss goes, well, since you're a Saints fan, we want you to host a Super Bowl party on behalf of the station, right? And we'll pay you. So I got paid like $150 plus a $50 gift card to the restaurant to host the Super Bowl party, where I did like a 2-hour show leading up to the Super Bowl and then basically do call-ins during the Super Bowl updating on the game. I made 2 mistakes that day. The first was agreeing to that because while the money was nice, I didn't get to like drink a bunch of beer and eat a bunch of food and enjoy the Super Bowl with my family. I was stuck in a restaurant with a handful of people I know and a lot more that I didn't, being a professional radio guy during my team's Super Bowl. Number 2, and this is the other sport regret that I will carry on forever. Lonzo, I wish I'd have sold whatever I needed to sell and go. I wish I'd have gone. I wish I would have gone, because to be in Miami, to be in that stadium that night that the Saints won our first, and as far as I'm concerned, probably only Super Bowl during my life, right, would have been the greatest sports memory I have. And I got some good ones. I was at the 06 game, the first game back in the Superdome after Katrina, that Monday night game where we throttled Michael Vick and the Falcons. I was at that game. That is my number one sports memory. But to be there when the Saints won the Super Bowl would have supplanted that and been number one. That's my biggest sports regret. I wish I would have done whatever I needed to do. I wish I would have sold my body or donated it to science or whatever I could have done to come up with $800 to be in Miami. I could have gone there and not eaten for 3 days in order to have the money to be in that stadium for the Super Bowl. I wish I would have done it. I will never forgive myself for not doing it. So those are my 2 biggest sports regrets. Number 1, never got to go see a game at Old Yankee Stadium. And number 2, did not find a way to be at the Super Bowl for the Saints' first and only Super Bowl victory. Texas says, my biggest sports regret is not going to the World Cup games in 1994. Will be rectified several times over in 2026. Only had to wait 32 years to fix it. Now I was 8 during that World Cup, so it wasn't like I was getting to travel, right? The 2026 World Cup, which is going to be hosted across Canada, the U.S., and Mexico. Lonzo, I'm going to go ahead and tell you in advance, I will either be off, like burning all my vacation to go to those games, or I will be finding ways to do remotes live from different cities, because I will do my best to follow the U.S. team across the U.S. during that World Cup. That is 4 years to save up money for it. I will not make that mistake. I will be at multiple World Cup games.
Well, we've already proven that we can go mobile, or you can go mobile. So we're good with that. I would say don't even bother going down the hall and trying to pull the, can I get some money to go to? Because that'll be on me. Yeah, that's not
That'll be on me. But I will say this will be less a, do you mind if I go remote from Dallas when the U.S. plays France, and more a, hey, boss, I'm going remote from Dallas when the U.S. plays France.
Maybe Steve will let you borrow his jet. It's possible.
Damn, 1%er's down. I'm like a 3%er after that sentence. All right, so texters, what is your biggest sports regret? I've given you mine too. Never went to Old Yankee Stadium. Did not find a way to get the money to go to the Saints Super Bowl. I will never forgive myself for those two. What are your biggest sports regrets? The Preferred Home Services text line is 71307, 71307. The phone lines are 844-GSP-ESPN. Give us a buzz. Come on the air. Want to know yours. What's your biggest sports regrets? Back after this on the Rob Brown Show on ESPN Upstate.
Christine Lisi, developing story from ESPN's Adam Schefter. The Cowboys likely to release receiver Amari Cooper by the start of the new league year on March 16th. He's due $20 million, fully guaranteed on March 20th. If Dallas cuts him, he'd count $6 million against the cap instead of $22 million. Lawyers leading the NBA's investigation into the Phoenix Suns are preparing to interview majority owner Robert Sarver regarding the accusations against the team and him. Allegations include racism and misogyny in a sometimes hostile and toxic workplace. Tickets for tomorrow's Duke North Carolina game going for prices more typical of a Super Bowl than a college basketball game, but it is not just any game. It's Mike Krzyzewski's final home game as head coach of the Blue Devils before retiring. Cheapest tickets over $3,400. Best seats more than $50,000 each. Duke UNC tomorrow 6 Eastern, ESPN TV.
From the Ingles Market Studio, this is ESPN Upstate. 97.7 FM Greenville, 97.1 FM Spartanburg. ESPN Upstate.
An Odyssey station.
I need 4 more of the biscuit carnitas, 2 burnt egg platters.
The Kitchen at Kai's Barbecue is firing on all cylinders.
Great, I'll be bringing some.
He needs food runners who can hit the ground quickly.
86 on the chicken and we're short-staffed. Let's pick it up.
Indeed can help him hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Instant Match instantly connects you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your sponsored job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
You may be into punk rock, soft rock, or classic rock, R&B, hip hop, or house, country, techno, or techno country. But no matter what kind of music you listen to, here's something else you should hear. Please consider getting vaccinated. Talk to your pharmacist today about Comirnaty, COVID-19 vaccine mRNA. This message is brought to you by BioNTech and Pfizer.
In a world where single touch can threaten the surfaces of your home, there's Microban 24. Just one spray fights bacteria all day.
Bacteria incoming. Shields up, defenders.
Used as directed, Microban 24 sanitizing spray forms a defensive shield that keeps killing 99.9% of bacteria for up to 24 hours. Touch after touch.
Threat eliminated.
Microban 24. Don't just sanitize it. Microban. Now spraying in store near you.
So we missed something last night.
What we miss?
There was no post-credit scene, but there was a picture that said goodbye that had a bunch of cryptic things in a URL. And if you went to the URL, you had to solve 3 separate riddles to get to something.
What is it? What's the URL?
I don't know if it shows the URL in this article.
Batman post-credit URL.
They scored 6 straight goals in the third period to win 9-4 to win the ball.
Build your winning team today. Go to LinkedIn.
It is the website that they use in the movie.
Is it?
Uh-huh.
Supposedly there are riddles on there.
I love it. I love it. Oh, I'm going to be doing this all day Sunday. This is... Texter says, Zoe, for the love of all that is good, please give Rob a hug after that story. I'm okay. You understand there's a difference between being sad and hating yourself, right? I just hate myself. I'm not sad.
It's not like it happened yesterday.
Right.
I mean,
It's been a decade. I've had time to process it. I don't forgive myself, but I process it.
I mean, maybe a little therapy or something might help, but I doubt it. I mean, we all have regrets, and that's just a regret that you're going to have to live with.
This is my therapy, by the way, this show. Just decompress.
Maybe someday the Saints will make it to a Super Bowl again, and you'll have an opportunity to go that one.
Probably not, but, fingers crossed. Maybe Jameis Winston takes us to a Super Bowl. Who knows? Texture says, I had the chance to go see Michael Jordan play when he was with the Wizards in Atlanta, and I didn't go. It was the only time that I had a chance my whole life. Yeah, I never saw Jordan play either. I had chances and I never saw Jordan play either.
Do you want to go see him play
with the Wizards?
With the Wizards?
I would. You just want to say you saw Michael Jordan, right? Even if it was old, out of shape Michael Jordan, you still want to go see MJ one time to see say that you saw the greatest ever to do it play in person. I've seen LeBron play in person. I saw him play in New Orleans. I've seen Durant play in person one time. Yeah, I never saw Kobe. I missed Kobe by 2 days one time. I was in New Orleans towards the very end of Kobe's career, and he played on like a Wednesday night, and there was just no way for me to get there. So I missed Kobe. I missed Mike. Never got to see Mike play. But also, Mike was playing. I mean, Mike stopped playing when I was not very young, but my late teens, early 20s, Mike stopped. I wasn't really in a spot where I could call that shot quite yet. But yeah, that would have been that's a tough one. If you had a chance to see Mike play and passed on it when you could have seen him, that's a tough one. Let's see. I'm trying to think of other ones. I had somebody text me during the break and say that, speaking of UNC Duke, they had tickets to a UNC Duke game at Chapel Hill one year. They said like 6 or 7 years ago, they had a chance to see Duke UNC at Chapel Hill. Decided to pregame that contest, right? Decided to pregame that contest. Ended up hanging out with some fraternity brothers and got passed out drunk and missed the game. And it ended up being a barn burner overtime kind of game. Said they went a little hard on the whiskey before the game and then just flat out missed the game. I was like, what happened to the ticket? And they were like, my boys just sold it and pocketed the money.
Say that's not regret. That's just stupidity.
Yeah. I mean, it's a regret. It's a regret.
You should regret more. Maybe get your problem taken care of. I mean,
rough.
Yeah. Right.
That's rough. That's rough. All right. So what are your biggest sports regrets? Alonzo, you got any, Anna?
I only have one minor one, and it's not anything that I could really do anything about it. When the UFC came to town, I had tickets.
Yeah.
And I couldn't go because I had to work.
What was the fight? Do you know?
I don't remember what the fights were. I don't think Wonder Boy wasn't fighting, but there was a big name fighting. It was a fight night.
Okay.
And I could not go, and there was no way. We were in the middle of some turnaround, so there's no way I could get anyone to cover for me. And it was on Saturday night, and it's really hard for me to get someone to cover for me on Saturday night because they actually have to host the show. So I couldn't go. And so, but I ended up giving the tickets to my wife and my daughter, so I'm glad they got to go, but I really, really wanted to go and I could not go. And I was on my way to get to go. And then some people quit.
Rough.
I mean, like I said, it's a minor thing. And in the end, I mean, there's kind of a positive to it because they got to go and they had a good time and they're both big UFC fans. So at least I got to provide the tickets for them.
I wonder if I know there's more. I passed up, let's see, 2003, my senior year of high school. I passed that. I think that was the year I passed up, I missed the Kobe game. That one's going to bug me forever. So what are yours? What's your biggest sports regrets? The game you missed, the athlete you could have got to see but passed on it, the ticket you could have bought but then didn't. Oh, I'll tell you, I do have one more. Now, the reason this one isn't on the top 3, isn't in the top 2, I guess, is because it's still rectifiable. But in like 2010, 11 or so, I had a buddy of mine, Zoe, call me. He lived down in Tampa. Buddy of mine called me from down in Tampa and said, I have got an extra badge for a practice round at Augusta National, right? So I could go watch Tiger practice at the Masters at Augusta National. But it was like a Tuesday afternoon. And so it had been 2 days of vacation. It had been either Monday, drive up Tuesday and drive back, or Tuesday, drive up real early, watch the round, and then drive back. Two, maybe 3 days of vacation. And I turned him down. I said, I can't do it. I just got too much going on. And he went. Now, you can't take pictures and whatnot at the Masters. Can't bring your phones in, stuff like that. And I thought, am I really missing out on watching guys I watch on TV practice, you know? And then he called me the night after. And he's like, dude, you screwed up. The course is beautiful. The grounds are beautiful. You basically had unparalleled access to these guys because practice rounds, like the golfers will come over and talk to the fans along the ropes and chat with them about shots and what they're working on and whatnot. And I didn't go. And he had incredible stories about some of the guys he got to watch and what they did and the conversations he had and whatnot. And I regret not going to that.
Did it end up in the Waffle House afterwards?
Most good nights do. But that one can be fixed, right?
Tiger might have been trolling for, you know.
Oh, fair enough. I could have wingmaned for Tiger or had Tiger wingman for me.
There you go.
You know what? I got a true story. Reggie Bush wingmaned for me one time down in New Orleans. I might share that story later. Let me phrase that. Reggie Bush didn't so much wingman for me as pass a woman on to me because he was dating Kim Kardashian at the time. We were at Club Republic in New Orleans the year after the Saints won the Super Bowl party. And Reggie Bush had to pass a woman on because Kim was on her way to the club. And he had to pass on this woman who was all up in his stuff. And he passed her on to me because I was the only other dude within like 20 feet of him. I might tell that story later too. It's a good one. Let's take a break. Lonzo, Rob, you. We're back after this. It's ESPN Upstate. Oh, great text. My biggest regret on an event is when I had the chance of seeing the Gamecock football team go to the national championship game and not hitting the snooze button to see it. That wasn't even close, Lonzo.
Yeah, it's the Clemson fans text. Whatever gets you pleasure. My greatest regret is when I couldn't be there to watch Ohio State whoop that butt.
The answering the you want me to tell you what you get for answering the riddle correctly? It's just been spoiled to me. Answering the riddle correctly will grant you a video of Thomas Wayne's campaign ad re-edited by the Riddler.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but you're spoiling other people. Keep that in mind.
Don't say anything.
So there's probably that video is probably available without having to do the riddles.
I kind of want to though. The problem is, right? As I look at it here,
I thought the riddles were really good, by the way.
I thought they were too.
Very serial killer type things, because if you read in or listen to people talk about actual serial killers, a lot of them leave clues as to who they are. Sometimes on purpose, and usually when they get a little bit arrogant about it is when they get caught.
So here's the thing. So if you go to the website, it puts up this image which has codes in it. And obviously it looks like they just translate to letters.
Call Alfred, have him cipher it.
Right. And that's my question is, does this come from are these in the movie? Like if I rewatch the movie, will I be able to pick out enough letters to figure this out? Or is there a way to figure it out without having watched the movie?
Maybe there's a cipher online.
Because like Alfred makes the point about looking for something particular, and that something particular is in this. All right, I got to close it because otherwise it's just going to end up being what I focus on.
Says drink more Ovaltine.
Trackphone wants to know, are you an influencer? A big live streamer? No? Then guess what? You don't need an endless data plan. Get just the right amount of data with
We'll say your guys behind us made me almost need a chiropractor.
Yeah, they clobbered my chair getting him to go to the bathroom once.
So the one dude got me on the way out, and when he came back, I leaned forward as far as I could, and it didn't get me. And usually when we buy those seats, no one buys the seats next to us so we can spread out. One dude bought one. That guy on the other side of Cameron, it's like one guy bought that random seat next to Cameron. It's like, oh, that sucks. Because there was other places in there. It just microBandage.
Dashboard light problems? We can help. Our free fix finder service can read your check engine light, ABS light, and service indicator light, and give you possible solutions verified by licensed technicians. You'll even get detailed results sent straight to your email so you have them when you need it most. It's the most complete free warning light report backed by technician verified service. Free fix finder service. Only at More details at AutoZone.com.
Hey, Ray Magliozzi here. Have you ever cooked a really fine gourmet meal? Yeah, me neither. But I'm told it all comes down to the ingredients. And when I need ingredients to improve my car, the place I go is eBay Motors. Whether you roasted your last transmission, rated your current floor mat, or pureed your side view mirror on a lamppost, eBay Motors has the right parts at the right prices. It's a million of them. And by the way, if you're using a fire up your grill, don't worry, eBay Motors has grills too. eBay Motors. That's right.
This report is sponsored by Discover. Real credit card questions require real people. Someone who understands your issues and works to resolve them with you. That's why Discover offers helpful, U.S.-based representatives. Available 24/7. Discover. Exceptionally common sense.
Join the Rob Brown Lockdown on Twitter. Tweet at The Rob Brown Show on the
The Rob Brown Show rolls on. It's ESPN Upstate. Texter says, my biggest regret on a sporting event is when I had the chance of seeing the Gamecock football team go to the national championship game and not hitting snooze to see it.
Wow.
I see what he did there.
How long did it take you to write that one?
It was a dream, Lonzo.
Yeah,
It was a dream,
I wonder what team he's a fan of. I'm just, I have some guesses, like one guess.
See, because what he's saying there is the only way the Gamecocks can go to champion is in a dream, and then he didn't hit the snooze button to be able to keep dreaming, so he didn't get to see it. That's the joke in that text.
So what you're saying is this is funny to somebody.
I actually really did laugh when I read it. I genuinely did laugh when I read it. All right. 844-GSP, ESPN, 844-477-3776. Preferred Home Services text line is 71307. USC women taking on Arkansas right now. We are at halftime, and the Lady Gamecocks at 27-1 with a 15-1 conference record, hanging on to a 40-29 lead in this one so far. Aaliyah Boston is 4 of 5 from the floor. Her only miss came from the three-point line where she's 0 for 1, but she's got 9 boards, a pair of assists, and 11 points so far. Everybody else, I got to be real, the shooting in this game is dreadful. Aaliyah Boston's 4 of 5. Every other starter for the Gamecocks, 1 and 5, 1 and 4, 2 and 7, 1 of 4. For the Razorbacks, Spencer's 3 of 8, 0 of 3 from the 3-point line. Their other starters are 1 for 6, 1 for 6, 1 for 5, 1 for 4. This is not the most exceptional shooting game I've seen. I'm going to chalk it up to they're in a much bigger arena and it's doing the whole depth perception thing. I got to chalk it up to that, right?
So instead of showing like highlights and stuff, they were showing frisbee dogs and dog tricks.
In fairness,
I'm not opposed to that. It's kind of
right.
cool, but still,
the list of things I'll watch before I watch dog tricks is a pretty short list.
But
if I'm being honest.
it's more proof that there wasn't that many shots made to actually show highlights of. So
yeah, it's pretty awful shooting percentage for both teams in this game so far. Arkansas is 32.4%, South Carolina 38.9%. Back after this on the Rob Brown Show, ESPN Upstate.
Frisbee dogs are awesome, by the way.
Frisbee dogs are the goats.
Yeah.
Texter says, Rob, please let Zoe know I am also the texter who put down the Clemson alumni for going to Mike Krzyzewski's farewell game. I am an equal opportunity disrespecter.
And I really don't care, but you know what I enjoy doing? Trying to steal thunder. I can't always do it, but you know. Why couldn't we have a day like yesterday today? Why can't it be as warm today as it was yesterday?
It's still pretty nice outside.
Yeah, but it's not like 80 degrees.
Short sleeve soccer jersey for a reason.
Check, because this seems like the same promos over and over again.
Texter says, currently going number 2 in a public restroom, listening with earbuds in the first stall because you two have taught me well. You know, Lonzo, we might be a niche sports show, but if we're your niche, A, call a therapist, and B, we are so glad you're here. We really are.
I wouldn't call the number 1 sports show in the state of South Carolina a niche, but you know.
It gets weird sometimes. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. The Rob Brown Show is on your radio. This is ESPN Upstate. I am Rob, the great one, Lonzo, on the other side of the glass. Be a part of the show. The text line, the Preferred Home Services text line is open for you at 71307. Just start your text with ESPN. We'll read them on the air. You can also get on the air with us by calling 844-GSP-ESPN, 844-477-3776. You can tweet us at The Rob Brown Show, at The Rob Brown Show, at ESPN Upstate, or if you want to tweet the great one, at Lonzo on Word. All the different ways to be a part of the radio broadcast today. Hope that you elect to do so. Won't spend a ton of time on this, but I did get a chuckle out of it. Back on Wednesday, we told you about the PGA Tour's inaugural Player Impact Program, right? So the Player Impact Program is a fund that the PGA put together that they reward players for directly contributing to the attention paid to the PGA, not because of golf, right? So on social media and by going to and participating and putting on charity events, et cetera, et cetera. So this program is designed to where the players that have the most impact of drawing fans' eyeballs to the sport would be paid a big bonus. Whoever won that metric got $8 million, second place, 6, third place, 3.5, and fourth place, third. But there were a lot of ties, right? Well, Phil Mickelson tweeted out, and of course, Phil has found himself drawing the ire of a number of different a number of different golfers on tour based on some comments that he has recently made regarding the proposed Saudi Arabian-driven alternate golf association that may or may not ever get off the ground. But Phil said, I'm not a big fan of Saudi Arabia, but maybe this will make the golfers be cooler or whatever he said. And a lot of golfers on tour, Rory McIlroy amongst them, one of the most popular in the game, have trained their sights on Phil Mickelson, courtesy of those comments. Well, Phil Mickelson tweeted out, Lonzo, the day that the PGA Tour was expected to name the winners of the Player Impact Program. He tweeted out on the @PhilMickelson Twitter account, "I'd like to thank all the crazies and real supporters too for helping me win the PIP. To get the second half of the money, I have to add an event I haven't played in a while. See you in Kapalua. Kissy emoji, golf emoji, surfing emoji, swimming emoji. P.S. I'll try to find another hot, controversial topic soon. Thumbs up emoji." So Phil tweeted out, "Thanks to everybody, haters and supporters, for helping me win the $8 million Player Impact Program award." And then, Lonzo, do you remember what happened next?
Tiger won.
Tiger won the PIP award. And Tiger, on the official Tiger Woods Twitter account, quote tweeted him, Lonzo, and said, shrug emoji, whoops, shrug emoji, end tweet.
Don't count the money till it's in the bank, Phil.
Lesson learned, Phil. Lesson learned. For a dude who had a lot of golfers earlier this week saying Phil needs to humble up a little bit, Tiger, El Tigre, Eldrick just dropped the ultimate humble bomb on Phil Mickelson, and I'm here for it.
Although, when does the voting for the next season start?
I do not know.
So they both may have just got a bump already at the beginning of the voting.
If Phil's tweet made him number one, then Tiger, for the second time in 2 days, immediately took that spot from him.
Right, but I think they both put themselves in 1 and 2.
Oh yeah,
or right away. If it started already,
yeah.
I do wonder if what's the window? Does it go from January to January? When does
Good question. Good question. I'll try to find out. But I love Phil dropping the "I'd like to thank all my haters" line, which is what he did there. I'd like to thank all my haters for this $8 million. And El Tigre snuck in looking for blood and took it.
By the way,
Beautiful.
Just a quick update. Arkansas on the way back against South Carolina. It's now 44-37 South Carolina.
Yeah, down just 7 now. A couple of good defensive stops. The offense for South Carolina has slowed down just a little bit. Arkansas has knocked down, I think, 2 threes in their last 3 possessions to close the lead a little bit. So all of a sudden, these Lady Razorbacks are starting to feel themselves just a little bit. Not quite time to hit the panic button if you're South Carolina just yet, but that lead was at 11. First free throw from Bria Bill is good. So now the lead grows to 8. Second is good. So that lead back up to 9 points, but it is a single-digit lead where it was doubles to open the third quarter. 6:30 left in the third quarter here in this SEC women's third round quarterfinal matchup. We'll keep you up to date on that score as this game continues to progress. A couple more stories I wanted to get into. Speaking of golf, let me knock out a second golf story, and then I'm done with golf. All right. I know golf's kind of one of those niche topics that some people love, some people hate. The U.S. golf team has named Zach Johnson as its captain this year. He said he was out on the ski slopes back in late January, got the call asking him to captain the team in the next Ryder Cup, and he accepted that position. Of course, the Americans in the last Ryder Cup put up a 19-9 margin at Whistling Straits, the largest blowout ever over the Europeans. But this time, the Ryder Cup will be in Europe. It is going to be in Italy this time around. So the Europeans will have home field advantage in this one. However, the expectations are greater than ever because, Lonzo, the Americans have not won the Ryder Cup on European soil since 1993. The last time we won this tournament over in Europe. We've lost a handful in the States, and we've lost every one of them in Europe since 1993.
Why is that? Do they take it more serious than we do, or are the courses harder over there?
Neither the courses are harder. It's a different style of golf. Not all the time. And I'm not super familiar with the course they'll be playing it on, but a lot of European golf is more link style golf, right? So it's like more open rolling fairways, but the rough is a lot deeper. There's not as like in the States, the fairways are narrow, but the rough might only be about that thick. But in Europe, you got wider fairways, but if you miss, you're in ankle deep grass and you still got to get it out. I don't know if this is a links course we're going to play on, but that traditionally has been the case in a lot of places for the Ryder Cup. And on top of that, the Europeans are desperately passionate about the Ryder Cup and about golf, right? Desperately passionate. And the fun thing about this is that when Team US competes in anything in Europe, we are the powerhouse, right? And everything that's not the Winter Olympics and the World Cup, we are the powerhouse. And so to take down the United States is kind of like beating the Patriots with Brady, right? Like they want to do it just to say we took down the big dogs. So you get the best not just out of their team, but you get the best out of their fans. And on top of that, winning the Ryder Cup's hard as it is, right? Because Team Europe consists of all of Europe, which there's a lot of Europe.
So it's basically us versus the world.
No, it's us versus Europe. It does not include Asia. Does not include South America, which have produced a lot of really good golfers the last few years. Seen a lot more Chinese and Japanese golfers show up on medal stands in big tournaments on the PGA Tour. But the best golfers have historically come from Europe, and England and Scotland, where golf started. They've got a lot of pride, a lot of history wrapped up in that game. And so it's a tough tournament to win. Zach Johnson takes over. The reason I bring this up is because there was talk that the Ryder Cup qualifying for the Americans might get changed up under the next captain, right? They were talking about the potential to change up the qualifying. The U.S. in 2020 went from 8 automatic qualifiers and 4 captains picks to 6 automatic qualifiers and 6 captain's choices because of the COVID-19 pandemic that led to the PGA Tour being all cray-cray Johnson said that he is going to keep it there. Instead of 8 AQs and 4 picks, he will have 6 qualifiers and 6 picks, which gives him a little more flexibility to build his own team. And frankly, I like it, right? Like, frankly, I like it. I like it because, you know, you get a lot of guys who maybe win a lot of points early on the PGA calendar that would AQ themselves into a Ryder Cup spot, but who go ice cold right up leading to the Ryder Cup. So you got this guy who won a lot in February and March, and then when the Ryder Cup rolls around, he's ice cold. Well, now you open up 2 spots for DJ to go, I'm going to pick, instead of those 2 guys who would qualify by points, I'm going to pick these 2 other guys who maybe didn't qualify, but they are playing their best golf right now. And I like it. I think it's a smart idea. We told you earlier in the show, ladies and gentlemen, that Scott Fitterer has not had a conversation with Cam Newton yet. Has not had a conversation, but said he very much plans to. He said that when Cam showed up in Charlotte last year to discuss a contract to join the Carolina Panthers once again, that he and Scott Fitterer came to the agreement that after this season was over and Cam is scheduled to become a free agent 10 days from today at noon, that instead of just letting Cam walk, which is what happened the first time, right? They just let Cam walk, and there were a lot of Panthers fans that were very upset about it, that instead they would have a face-to-face conversation. Scott Fitterer said, Cam Newton is an option for us. We hope is an option for him too, et cetera, et cetera. We don't know that he's going to be the guy, but we want to sit down and have the conversation and talk to him about it. Based on the probably over-generous comments that Scott Fitterer had about that Scott Fitterer had about Sam Darnold earlier in the week, when he said, hey, look, Sam's a good quarterback, and he didn't play up to the expectations we had of him, and he didn't play up to the expectations he had of himself. And he knows if he's going to come back, he's got to be better, but also the job is up in the air and open to everybody. You had to know that they were going to talk to Cam, right? You had to know. Cam's familiar with Matt Rule and his offense. Cam's familiar with the area, with the team, with the administration, et cetera, et cetera. To me, Lonzo, I said this back in the first hour, and I'll say it again here because I want to see if any Panthers fans have tuned in that have a reaction. To me, you have 2 options. Cam Newton or draft Malik Willis. It's the only 2 options, right? Kirk Cousins is a 500 guy. We know that. But see, Kirk Cousins is a 500 guy when he's got the talent based around them that he has in Minnesota. Now, he would have that talent if Christian McCaffrey is able to stay healthy all year this year. Are you betting a paycheck that Christian McCaffrey? Lonzo, would you bet a paycheck right now that Christian McCaffrey plays 9 or more games this year?
I wish that I could, but no, I won't.
No, you wouldn't. And I wouldn't. And I don't think even McCaffrey fans would bet a paycheck that he will play 9 games or more this year. How could you, right? He hasn't in 2 years. He's played basically 1 out of every 4 games the past 2 seasons. I can't trust them to be there for me, right? If Run CMC was guaranteed to be a 17-game starter, then Kirk Cousins becomes a little bit more viable there. But remember, the thing you have to keep in mind here is not who's the best quarterback. The thing you have to keep in mind here alongside who's the best quarterback is what does each quarterback cost you, right? Kirk Cousins, to get him out of Minnesota, is going to cost you your 6th-round pick. You're effectively drafting Kirk Cousins. Would you draft Kirk Cousins over Kenny Pickett? Would you draft Kirk Cousins over Malik Willis? And because of the cap hit that you would take, which means you have to do one of 2 things. You either have to understand you got Kirk for a year or 2, and then you're riding a ton of dead money, which you're already doing with Sam Darnold, or you've got to agree to a long-term contract, like a 5-year contract with Kirk Cousins. Are you doing that when Kirk Cousins is 34 years old? No, absolutely not. It's not old, but he's ancient in quarterback terms, right? Steve Smith Sr. and I are on the same page. You have 2 options. A, you just sign Cam Newton for 1 more year and give him 1 more run as a starting quarterback of the Carolina Panthers without Sam Darnold in his rear view mirror. Or 2, you let him walk as a free agent, you retain Sam Darnold, and you bring in Malik Willis in the draft. I know you want to, if you are not going to draft Malik, then I'd rather it be Cam than Sam. There's not going to be anybody available because there's going to be a bidding war for Jimmy. You know how I know there's going to be a bidding war for Jimmy Garoppolo? You know who the most popular name in trade discussions going on right now with the Combine is, Lonzo? The name that I've seen pop up on every NFL Insider. You know who the most talked about quarterback at the NFL Combine is potentially a real, honest potential draft or trade target is right now?
Yeah, it used to be in Chicago and Buffalo, and his name, for some reason, is
Mitchell
Trubisky. Yeah,
Trubisky. That's the name that's getting a lot of play at the Combine right now as the most likely trade target is Mitchell Trubisky.
And what that says, there's a shortage of quarterbacks, really good quarterbacks in the NFL. And it also says that the quarterbacks coming out this year, not really that great.
Yeah. Cam or Mitchell Trubisky? Who's your pick?
I'm going to go with Cam.
Wow. A lot of people are. So do what you will, Panthers. But I'm telling you, it's either Cam or it's Malik. Or it's Cam and Malik if you can get somebody to take Sam Darnold off your hands. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, it's Friday. It's Fanboy Friday. We got two things we're going to talk about today. One, we got a question from Minister Man on the text line that he geared towards me and Lonzo. And two, we got a spoiler-free review of the Batman, which we saw last night. If you've been trying to make up your mind about whether or not you're going to see it this weekend, Lonzo and I help you come to that conclusion. That's next on the Rob Brown Show on ESPN Upstate. Kobe. Cup of haters. Cup of haters. We kicked its ass. When you hear the lightsabers clash, it's time for Fanboy Friday, the one segment that Lonzo and I take all the nerdy stuff we talk about in the nerd office and bring it onto the air. I want to start with this because the minister man has texted the show. He asked me earlier in the week, and I told him if he texted me back Friday at 2:20, we'd make it a segment, and he did. So we're going to make it a segment, or at least part of one. He asked the question, Lonzo, and I thought about this, and I genuinely don't know how to answer it. So I'll give you a couple of different thoughts. But he said, can you tell your listeners the best equipment to set up and start playing video games that y'all are talking about? I'm a beginner. And it's kind of a tough question to answer, Minister Man, and I would say I'm going to base it on what kind of games you're interested in, right? Now, I play a little bit of everything, right? I play big open games, MMORPGs, massive, massive multiplayer online role play games.
Yeah, that thing.
But I'll also play fight games like Mortal Kombat. I'll also play first-person shooters like Call of Duty and Warzone. It just depends on what you're most interested in, right? If this is going to be something you're going to jump into, like this is a thing I know I'm going to make a hobby out of, then I'll tell you, go ahead and grab yourself either a new PlayStation 5 or Xbox with the X series or S series.
Yeah.
Jump in at the top line. But if this is like I want to dabble and see if I like it, my suggestion would be to start with a PS4 or an Xbox One, right? Those are not they're the last generation. They're not old, but they're just the last generation. They are,
and almost all the new games that are out right now, the majority of probably 95% of them you can play on that iteration.
Right.
Of
it won't
console.
look as nice, but if you're going to be a casual gamer or a hobby gamer, it's not going to make so much difference to the game that you're going to be able to tell, especially as a new gamer. Now, if you know that like this is a thing I'm going to be big time doing all the time and be competitive with, then yeah, the new games process, the new consoles process faster. They've got better graphics resolution, better response time from the controllers and all that. It might be worth the extra cash. But if you think this is casual or you're just testing it out, you can go on to like Facebook Marketplace and grab yourself an old Xbox One or a PS4 and get a good feel for it. And then if you go 6-8 months and you're playing, 4, 5, 6 hours a week and putting time in and really enjoying it, then it might be worth it to resell that, put that money towards a PS5 or an X series in order to take it up to that next step. The second thing I would tell you to do is figure out what kind of games you're interested in, right? If you're interested in games that are based more on the story, then Google the games that have the best stories and find the ones that you're interested in. If you think you just want to play with your friends, there's a lot of great party games that are multiplayer party games that you can add onto your Xbox or PlayStation, and then connect online and chat with your friends while you play. If you are more of a traditional video game players, you may even want to go Nintendo Switch if you're like a traditional player, because the Switch has a lot of games that feel like really updated versions of old 80s and 90s games set to modern technology that might even be a little better for you. And you can take that one on the go or hook it up to your TV, which is kind of cool. But I would say step one would be figure out what kind of gamer you are. And then step two, figure out what kind of games you are interested in. And then cater to those two things specifically, because you'll branch out later, right? Once you figure out the games that you're interested in and you get the console that you're most interested in set up, then at that point, you'll be able to start honing in on really what you want to spend money on, what you want to improve, what you want to get better at, etc. And then you'll be able to start really kind of setting in on new what would you call them? I guess like amenities to your console, upgrades and whatnot. But yeah, I would say the first thing that you're going to want to do is grab yourself a last generation of, like I said, a PS4 or an Xbox One. Figure out the type of games that you want, buy the most popular games in that genre, and then see where you want to go from that. Gaming is something that for every individual, Lonzo, I think evolves as you mature, as you age, and what doesn't interest. Like 12 years ago, I was never into RPGs, never into it. And now I spend more times in RPGs than I do FPS, first-person shooters. So as you go, you'll refine your taste and be able to jump into new stuff, but you'll have background knowledge that makes it a little easier to do that.
You know, Rob was saying find your genre. Well, let me guide you more towards the Xbox, because the Game Pass is a cheap way to go, where you don't have to take a chance and buy a game that you're not sure that you're going to like or not, and you get burned on it. And buying a game, especially if you go buy a hard copy, is kind of like buying a car. It depreciates as soon as you get it out of the store. You're not going to get the same amount of money out of it that you just paid for it. But Game Pass has, I don't know, 100 games or so on it, of all different genres, even to the point where you can go, you know, I want to try an RPG. I want to try a fighting game. You can go to those genres and it will bring up all the games, and you're paying a fee every month, a fairly cheap fee, and all those games are available to play. And if you don't like them, you don't end up, it doesn't cost you money as far as that goes. And brand new games get dropped on there all the time. So you're not going out and paying $50 or $60 for a brand new game. It goes with your subscription. So I would lean you towards that also.
Yeah, and then like you said, it makes it a little easier to kind of go game by game through games until you find what captures your interest, what captures your attention, what holds your attention. Like I said, I really play a little bit of anything and everything. I will tell you that I used to be really big into the side-by-side fighting games, Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, etc. And then when I hit my late 20s, they just kind of, I'll still jump on and play them, but they just kind of lost my attention. And I moved over towards FPS games, Call of Duty, Warzone, Battlefront, etc. Never would have done an RPG. And then now in my early to mid, well, I guess now my late 30s, I'm now at a point where I do a lot more RPG play, where I do a lot more Skyrim and Elder Ring and stuff like that. But I will also gravitate back, Lonzo, to I like games that I can play with the guys, right? So like I might not get on and play Call of Duty a ton, but if Kevin and my buddies in my running group and my squad are playing, I will fire that up before I fire up Skyrim. If I'm by myself, it's Skyrim. If it's not, I go over to, if they're on, I play Call of Duty. So yeah, I would say three things. And I think Lonzo's right. I'd probably send you to an Xbox One. Get that hooked up, get the Game Pass. It's not expensive. You can really just go through a ton of games to find what games you like, what genre you like the best, what look you like the best, and then you can upgrade from that point. So that would be my suggestion. Second thing, here on Fanboy Friday, the great one and I yesterday went and saw The Batman. He doesn't talk like this in this movie. He doesn't do the really obnoxious voice change thing. I mean, he's definitely got a voice. He's definitely got a Batman voice, but it's not like over the top like the last two have been. Without spoiling it, Lonzo, I think what I can say is I liked it because primarily of the style. I did not know what to expect out of Robert Pattinson. I think he did a good job. I think he did a good job based in the style of movie that this movie's done. I don't know that you could have dropped his Bruce Wayne into Chris Nolan's movie and gotten the same effect, but I don't think you could have dropped Chris Bale's Batman into this movie and gotten the same performance for what this movie was, which is it felt more true to the origins of comic book Batman. I thought it was really well put together. There were like two different points where I thought, oh, the movie's over. And they're like, hang on, we got more coming to you. But it never changed the tone, right? Like the tone of the movie never shifted to away from what it is into something new in order to hook you for another few minutes. I thought it was phenomenally well done. There was no point in the movie where I thought, well, this would be a good point for a break, right? Like it escalated. It would escalate and plateau and then escalate again rapidly. It felt more like the Batman that I like, the Batman that I've always preferred, and they finally gave us that style of movie. I don't know that it's for everybody, Lonzo. I don't know that it's for everybody, but it absolutely was for me.
And I read an article earlier today that pointed something out that after you and I were discussing this in the office, that this is a Batman movie about Batman, not about the villains, because a lot of the Batman movies, or the majority of them, they really focus on the villains. Yeah, there's a major villain. Everyone, if you've seen the trailer, you know who it is.
Yeah.
The major villain is the Riddler. You know who that is. But this really focuses on Bruce Wayne and his journey, and focuses on Batman. And there's a style to it that they stick with. It does not vary. There's a pacing that they stick with. It does not vary. If you're into whodunit kind of things and trying to figure out, okay, this is where they're going in the movie, this is your kind of movie. And I really enjoyed it. I did, to the point where we got out of the theater and Rob's like, did you like it or not? Because I just, I don't want people to know right away how I felt about a movie. And also, this is a movie you have to process a little bit after you leave. It's not the kind where you come out and you're jumping up and you're all excited and everything. You come out, and even on the drive home and even getting up this morning, I thought more about the movie. It's very thought-provoking about how they did everything. The visual style, there is nothing wrong with that. It's very modern for a Batman movie. I will say that. A lot of the Batman movies are period pieces in a sense. They try to go make it a comic book place that couldn't exist actually on Earth at this time. This Gotham City could very.
Yeah, and I think I appreciated that too, right? Like and this is a discussion I've had with people about the Marvel movies. When Iron Man dropped, as fantastic as it is, there's still that element of like, well, if there was a genius with a billionaire's bank account, this is theoretically possible, right? But then as you got into Guardians and Doctor Strange and Wanda and Vision and Iron Man using nanobots for his suit instead of iron, well, technically an alloy, but you get the point. It got to fantasy. It got to fantasy, which is fine. It's still great stuff. This version of Gotham City was New York. This version of the Riddler was not the quirky, gimmicky guy in the lime green suit with the question marks all over it. This is a Riddler that if he popped up on CNN, you'd be like,
this is the Unabomber. This is. I mean, that's the first thing that popped in my mind. Unabomber.
Yeah.
Or a serial killer and that vein, who kind of leaves you a clue as to who it is, and people are trying to figure out who it is. And even in the end, when they reveal who it is, I mean, we all know who it is. I think people were expecting it to be a big time star, but it doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
That's the whole point.
Yeah, it was. I thought pacing was great, and the theme regarding the Batman himself, I thought was great too. The theme regarding the lesson that he had to take away from all this to become what he's going to become later as a young Batman. I thought was portrayed exceptionally.
If you're not sure about going, just go to watch the Batsuit. I think this is the best Batsuit so far, and it's only year 2 Batman. Who knows what they will do going forward? How much it will advance? I don't know that it needs to advance that much more.
Yeah, it's. I will tell you, I think it was the best looking Batsuit. Honestly, Lonzo, I think it was my favorite Batmobile too.
We're going to get the people, the Christian Bale fans, who are going to get angry.
Sure.
That some people are actually saying, and I have seen these online, that this is the best Batman ever.
I think it is. I genuinely think this was my favorite Batman movie. Now, I will tell you, now 2 weeks from now, not next Friday, but the Friday after, when the 2-week spoiler window is lifted and we can get into more details, I will evaluate that then. Because one of the things that I understand the failure of recency bias. Hey, I just saw it, so it's my favorite. I will evaluate it again in 2 weeks. I'll probably see it again before then, to tell you the truth. But my reaction walking out of that theater last night was, I love the Christopher Nolan Batman movies. I do. The first one was a great movie. I think this one topped it thematically, stylistically, and aesthetic-wise.
See, I'm not the guy for this, because the only Batman movie I didn't like was George Clooney. I've liked all of them, and I judge them as separate entities.
Bat nibbles.
Yeah, I judge them as separate entities. I try not to compare them to each other, because they're not all based in the same place. I mean, the backgrounds seem different. And you know, it comes down to who's actually making the movie too. But I do like how this was grounded, and I am interested to see where they go forward with this.
All right, so there you go. That's Fanboy Friday. That's how we do it. Let's take a break. We'll come back here in just a minute. Update you on this Arkansas-South Carolina quarterfinal game in the SEC Women's Tournament. The Lady Gamecocks have stretched their lead back out, so a little more comfortable position, but shots got to keep falling. We'll talk about that coming up in a minute, and then Twitter trending topics to wrap up the week on the Rob Brown Show and ESPN Upstate.
Sources tell ESPN's Adam Schefter Dallas is likely to release the 27-year-old receiver by the start of the new league year on March 16th. Clippers do $20 million in fully guaranteed money on March 20th.
Hey, did you see the thing that I sent you on Twitter? It was an Elden Ring thing. I'll never be able to do that. That's wicked though. He tore that guy up like, nope.
ESPN TV. Cheapest tickets going for over $3,400. The most expensive, more than $50,000 each. Coach K is retiring after this season.
Jerry and Larry's Family Auto Shop needed a small business loan fast, so they can hire me. Jerry suggested Contact.com, but instead, Larry called.
Chris says PlayStation 5 has been well worth the money so far. And PlayStation Plus is a good option to try out different stuff for a reasonable price and start evolving tasting games.
I don't know. That's why I'm.
The selection isn't big enough though.
Yeah.
I just opened the production room door. I needed to afford myself a spot to send over to one of the salespeople. And Diesel and a couple of the engineers were in there, and they scared the hell out of me because I just opened the door and there's three faces like right by the door. Diesel like, you just throw the door open. Yeah, there's nobody ever in here, man.
Because I've looked up Elden Ring things, this stuff is popping up like crazy on my social media, showing me a bunch of different videos and showing creatures showing up in places that I've been to and they're not there. So I don't know if that happens later on or if it's random.
I was going to say, it's got to be like random generated, right? For bigger monsters.
No, these look like boss fights. So maybe it's, there again, haven't beat the first boss. So.
Eddie Kingston says he has now seen the Batman twice. Said he ranks it 9 out of 10. Top 3 Batman movies: Dark Knight, The Batman, and Mask of the Phantasm, which is a great movie.
It is.
3:45 left to play in this quarterfinal game between Arkansas and South Carolina women's basketball Southeastern Conference tournament taking place in the Bridgestone Arena in Memphis, Tennessee right now. 17-point lead for the Lady Gamecocks. Get a 67-50, and Arkansas has got a couple turnovers, but really been unable to do anything with them. And at this point, they're basically just trading twos for the most part. Aaliyah Boston's going to put no, sorry, that was not Aaliyah Boston. That put another two up on the board. So 69-50 now in favor of the Lady Gamecocks. So I'm going to go ahead and say that this one is all but done with just a touch over 3 minutes left to play. So the Lady Gamecocks will theoretically move on unless something wild happens here. And they, in the semifinals, will catch the winner of the game between number 5 Florida and number 4 Ole Miss. In the opening round, Vanderbilt knocked off Texas A&M 85-69, but then Vanderbilt fell to Florida in a doozy, 53-52. Missouri fell to Arkansas. That's how the Razorbacks ended up in this one against South Carolina. So down on the bottom side of the bracket, Mississippi State fell to Kentucky. They are on into the quarterfinals. They'll take on LSU at 7 o'clock this evening. And then at 9:30, Alabama's women's team will take on Tennessee. What did I say? I said that, right? Bridgestone in Nashville. Texas said, did I not say Nash Vegas? If I did, I misspoke. But that's where they're playing. They're in Nashville for this one. Alabama takes on Tennessee at 9:30 tonight. The winner of Kentucky LSU will take on the winner of Alabama Tennessee. South Carolina, assuming that they finish off Arkansas here, will take on the winner of Florida and Ole Miss. That game is up next at 3:30. The 5 and the 4 seed. South Carolina, of course, with one loss on the season, is the number 1 overall seed. They will play the semifinal game coming up 5 p.m. on Saturday. So tomorrow at 5 p.m. will be the next game. Should the Lady Gamecocks win that game and move on to the SEC Finals, that game will be at 2 o'clock on the afternoon on Sunday, March 6th. 2 o'clock will be the SEC Women's Basketball Final. And again, South Carolina is 21 up now on Arkansas with 2:47 and a running clock left to play, taking on the winner of Florida and Ole Miss, the 5 versus the 4 seed, coming up at 3:30 on ESPN, I believe, or SEC Network, one or the other. I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, we'll have a rundown of that, assuming, as I don't think it's unfair to do, Lonzo, that the South Carolina Lady Gamecocks win the Southeastern Conference Women's Basketball Tournament. We will have a full breakdown of their run to and through the title on Monday's show.
Yeah, nothing's a given, but they've been ranked number 1 the entire season, I believe. So there's no reason to believe that they're going to stumble.
Yeah, one trip up in the middle away from being undefeated will do that for you.
And the other thing is, I mean, they looked a little sloppy today. It's almost like they're just coasting.
Ugly start to the game.
Look like they're coasting.
But they also haven't played in a week. So, even the best teams are going to get a little rust on them when they sit stale for a week. That's, now listen, you want that 2-round bye if you can get it, right? You want to be in a spot where you don't play your first game until the 3rd round because you want, Vandy, Texas A&M, Missouri, and Arkansas to be dog tired when they show up in the 3rd round. But when you haven't played a game since the 27th of February, you're going to have a little ring rust. Here's what I do find interesting, and I appreciate this. Dawn Staley seems to be an awesome person, right? Like, she seems fun. She seems like she's fun to hang out with.
She has been on the station before, and I will tell you, it was a fun interview.
Yeah.
And she's laughing the entire time. Yeah. She's not, overly serious. And it was pretty cool.
Texter says, you said Memphis. All right, that's my bad. I misspoke. It's Nashville. We talked to Corey Diaz from Nashville yesterday. So I know that. I'm just dumb. Yeah, Dawn seems like an awesome person. She seems like she's a laugh a minute kind of gal. She seems like she's fun. Just a minute ago, up 21, the Lady Gamecocks turned the ball over with a bad pass that just flew out of bounds. Like, bad out of bounds. Like DeAndre Jordan for the Lakers bad. Like 6 rows deep out of bounds. They went to Dawn Staley on the sideline, and Dawn looked like she was going through the worst migraine of her life. up 21 with inside of 2.5 to play, and Dawn looked like her head was about to pop off her shoulders because of a bad turnover by her team. She seems fun, a little intense. I like it. Let's take a break. Twitter trending topics to round out the week when we come back on the Rob Brown Show on ESPN Upstate.
Dum, 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 dum. It looks downright pretty out there. I cannot wait to get out there and partake in the enjoyable sun. I guess we'll enjoy the sun and enjoy the day while we can before the parachuting spiders get here. So Tim got his Twitch channel up earlier today. He sent me a link to it, and he was playing Call of Duty. I'm not going to comment on his skills because I haven't played the game, so I don't know how hard it is. But
Playing the battle royale or the campaign?
I don't. He's whatever gun he had a scope on it, and he was trying to take some guy out who kept looking around the corner, and so you would recognize it right away. But the camera and everything that he's shooting with looks really good, though. He just has to set up mics, he said. Which means I'm going to end up having to play that game. But, you know. All right, time for Twitter trending topics. The last one of the week. The first thing that is trending is Greg Hardy.
So we didn't get into this in Fight Club, but Greg Hardy has asked to step into, I believe they're boxing fights, has asked to step into a boxing ring, and not just with anybody, but he wants Tyson Fury. Is that correct?
No, he doesn't want Tyson Fury yet. He wants Anthony Joshua or Deontay Wilder first. He said he's not ready to step in the ring with Tyson Fury. At least he's smart about that. You know, I mean, he's not.
I don't want Michael Jordan. Give me LeBron. Yeah, that's cool, man.
You got to start somewhere. That's by the way, that's not why he's trending. I want to tell you why he's trending, because he was 30 pounds overweight at the beginning of this week.
Yeah.
He made weight.
Seriously?
Yes.
Golly.
So he was the last one to make weight. They even extended it a little bit to see. He had to get down to 266, and I think he was like 310 or something like that, or 300.
And he made weight. The only way to lose 30 pounds in a week is to die. That's it.
Someone posted a picture of E.T. when E.T. was almost dead, and he was that dried out husk thing in the hospital. I don't know if you remember E.T., but showing that as him. Yeah, it's like, okay, why is Greg Hardy trending? Did he do something to get in trouble? Is he not going to be able to fight? And it's like, yeah, he dropped that, but he made weight. So, I mean, good for him. Can you imagine the amount of weight he will put back on before tomorrow?
Yeah, right.
Having dropped all that weight.
Checks back in at 310. Unbelievable.
They like get into like a dehydrator or something.
Still hope he gets his head kicked off.
Yeah, it might happen. All right.
He's a bad guy.
All right. Corey Graves is also trending.
No idea why. I got to be honest with you, Alonzo. I haven't watched SmackDown or Raw in about a month.
Okay.
I've seen some of the highlights, but I haven't watched SmackDown or Raw in about a month.
So here's why Corey Graves is trending. McMahon was on with Pat McAfee yesterday, was watching it, and our power went out, so I didn't get to watch it. But at the end of the interview, he offered Pat McAfee a match at WrestleMania, which we knew was coming. And so now it's trending that people, for some reason, think, since Corey's been cleared to wrestle, that it would be Corey Graves versus Pat McAfee, which I'm not entirely against. But Corey's been out of the ring for a really long time.
For a long time, but he also is a trained wrestler.
Yes.
And was a good one, from what I understand, before the neck injury. I think I'd be here for it. If only for Corey v. Pat on the McAfee show would be gold. Gold.
Corey has already said he'd whip that booty. So
I'm in. Ladies and gentlemen, that is it for us. South Carolina beats Arkansas 76-54. They will play tomorrow, the winner of Ole Miss in Florida. Mark Ryan and Diesel. We'll have the results of that game on for you. You'll have a great weekend. Don't drink and drive. I'll punch you in the face. Have a good one, everybody. We'll see you back here Monday on the Rob Brown Show on ESPN Upstate. Later, brother.
ESPN Upstate, WIRD Greenville, WORD Spartanburg, WFBC FM HD3.
An Odyssey station.
This is Sports Center.
I'm Doug Brown.
Bye-bye,
ESPN's Adam
Shane.
Schefter reports the Cowboys are likely to cut wideout Amari